So I'm Samira Chaturanga. So lectured online Nakura Advanced Risk Management and Corporate Governance. So with the CA strategic level. So our first I would like to someone can introduce yourself also who are joining students. If I can get the understanding of your, so someone can, hello, about your how your background, you are in the strategic level, you may see the said the ADR paper in the last time, so unfortunately you can't success, then you have to separately financial reporting paper and this paper you have to do, right? This so audit paper. So like someone may last exam can complete the corporate level and then come to the this subject. So if I can get the understanding of your how you are come which background, so it's for me to conduct in this session is easy. Can you individually give your comments about that? So okay, so if you want to, I can start. So this is the our program. So that's the very first slide. So you to get the understanding where how we drive this revision programs to the third week, like third week of June. So Sri Lanka will conduct your exam. So with that, so how our approach to the your exam with the this syllabus, this is one of the brand new subject in the CA strategic level. So the new areas, so in not you not learned in the previous stage and the previous subject in the CA. So if you are new syllabus, if they introduce but tax, but you learn previous tax is there. Financial management, if you learned in the previous subject in the finance management there, but this is one of the brand new subject in the different view you have to approach exam in this subject. So multiple role mentality you should have to develop. So that is this program. So will that is the expectation of to develop you to that level, so you can tackle any questions and you to bring this knowledge to the not the exam beyond that to the boardroom. So with that, this is our plan. Just a few minutes I will take to explain. So today our first session with the overview of the regulatory compliance and legal frameworks. This is the 10% of the your syllabus component. So then next one is the 5th of May, overview of internal audit. This is the 20% of the components of the your subject. This is the first time in CA Sri Lanka. The 20% weightage given to the internal audit. You can think how this paper so will structure, right? So then overview of the advanced risk management, 45% of the your subject component. Then overview of the corporate governance, 15%. Then overview of the ethics of the accountant in business. This is a corporate world position as accountant. So what ethical? So how you apply? So that is the approach. Not the audit firm partner, audit firm manager who is a chartered accountant. What ethical problems are faced? Not like that. This is talk about the accountant in the business, right? Those 5 components, 100% covering your syllabus. But first I know this because revision normally just do the past papers and the questions, but this subject no any past papers. And also I know that I just very first that I asked someone may March issue the results with the ADR. Sometimes you can't success, sometimes one subject with the financial management you are not success, but you have to do this subject now. So with that short period, so our objective is you to get the knowledge about the overview about this component, and then our approach after that. So model paper discussion. So first paper and the second in the physical final paper will conduct our learning center. So this is the program of the rapid division program. So it's a game plan for the June exam. So hope if you can so properly attend and so you do the exercise with me. So you can pass this subject, but this subject is not about the passing 50 marks. This is the broader knowledge. You can be strategic and trusted advisor to the board. So that knowledge is here. So I think 50% marks you can pass the exam, but if you at least 80 to 70 to 80 knowledge need for you to survive in the corporate world. So that knowledge is here, right? So with that, I think this slide now you have a clear understanding about how we drive this our program. So with that, shall I go to the next slide? So this is also I extracted because I know you all are from the CA in the previous curriculum, but as per the now this subject come in the 25-30 curriculum. So what the expectation of the CA Sri Lanka new curriculum? So this understanding you need. So before just I need to just jump into this today's sessions. So few slide I took to here you to get the understanding about this. This is what the new curriculums. There's a 3 core promises of the curriculum. One of the trusted, second one in the strategic, third one in the storyteller. So how this defining? So trusted, you are mastering in the technical and integrity skills. That is talk about trusted. Like you may accounting, taxations, finance, law. That knowledge is you are trusted. Then strategic, that is enabling and application expertise. How you can apply your data knowledge, Power BI. So that sustainability, governance, those areas talk about the strategic. Storyteller, it is about the power and the integration of skills, your communications, and then the leadership, problem solving, those skills you need. All 3 is interconnected. So you to become a strategic and trusted advisor to the board. So that knowledge is the expectation of the CA new curriculum that's called 25-30. So if you are like, I can explain this one position apply to these 3. If you say like a chief risk officer of the organization, right? Chief risk officer, he or she knowledge will develop the 50-100 page report, right? That is a normal risk report like this. But is the knowledge about the Power BI data, visualization, then begin to the 2 pages that like I catch visualization about the your 150 pages detailed reports. That skills you should have, because business leaders, you are advised to the board members, they don't have time to 150 pages read. So that skill you should have. But you begin just 2 pages to the board explain. So you have communication skills, right? If you don't have communication skills, you can't this product you can't sell, right, with the boardroom. So that is this storyteller, this problem solving, communication, leadership skills I need. You can now practically think that positions how these all 3 combinations, the very powerful and also very dominant knowledge character in the boardrooms, right? That is the expectation of CA Sri Lanka. So with that, shall I move to the next slide? So this is the one of the where is the 3 line of defense model. So in any organization, especially in the bank and finance, in the structure this with the regulator guidelines and the regulation, regulatory guidelines. So this how this the first line come like CFO, like agent is the CEO. This the second line depend position. This is chief risk officer, chief compliance officer. This is a chief internal auditor. How the 3 line of defense? This is a governing board. This is a board of directors, right? So with the now you are this subject knowledge, this you become a chartered accountant after. So I know you may be 1 subject, 2 subject like this, right? After you will tackle this one of the positions, right? So you to become these positions, this knowledge, especially this advanced risk management and corporate governance subject knowledge is most of critical you to survive. So then after you may play in these positions maybe 5 years, 10 years, you can become this board, because corporate governance say the one of the board members financial acumen. and the professional accounting member should be in the board who is the chair of the audit committee, right? So there is a role, you to see it there. So you to there play, so this subject knowledge will add value, not today, in the future also, right? So that I want to just to three lines. So, and also I want to tell, you have to think this subject not like the CFO mentality, because chartered no more is the CFO build-up, right? Because that is what say this subject. So they introducing, so that signal very powerful giving, like internal 20%, you can think you are a bank, finance, Sri Lanka, 80%, 90% CIS are CA members, right? So with that, no more this CA is the CFO. Sometimes people tell like this, but it is not the matter, right? So you have to think this subject like sometimes CFO mentality, chief risk officer, that is my advanced risk management component, even a chief compliance officer. Now today we talking about the regulatory and compliance, regulatory compliance and legal frameworks, right? Chief internal auditor, 20% of internal audit components, not like previous CA Sri Lanka syllabus, they are 5% like internal audit, very few, about 20%, very high portion, right? So you have to learn that level, so to tackle the exam questions. So this is how this subject and positioning within the organization. I want you to give the understanding, but our introduction videos are in detail explained. So if you further you want to learn, so you go to that video and please watch, right? So with that, now we come to the today session. Now that the previous slide want to give some understanding about this advanced risk management and corporate governance subject, and how you have to think this paper, and then our plan also to next 1.5 months, right, within. So this regulatory overview of regulatory compliance and legal frameworks today's session. So with that, if you watch, if I hope you can visible this slide, so you can think this. Right. Okay. This so regulated compliance and legal frameworks. So there are you know, this one few institute body in the Sri Lanka. So if you can eye catch this symbol of theirs, you will realize how complexity in the Sri Lankan regulatory and compliance, regulated compliance and legal frameworks. So there are a number of guidelines, right? Central bank, so the bank guideline, corporate governance issues, and then the finance company, NBFI, non-banking financial institute guideline issues, FIU, financial intelligence unit, you know, the anti-money laundering, and then terrorist finance, all guideline issue them, suspicious financial transactions, so very big role playing there. So, and also Sri Lanka Inland Revenue, you know, now is in future we come to 18 plus with the TIN number. So most of the people are part of this institute, so this body, and then you know, transfer pricing. So a lot of regulatories come from the Inland Revenue other than taxes, right? So then now this is the one of the newly introduced authority, is the data protection authority. So you know now important in the data world. So one of the most valuable asset in the data. So with that, so critical role play in this institute. So and also the Data Protection Act, all the detail are in the latter part also I will discuss, but in the one slide I want to give this regulated compliance and legal frameworks is complexity in Sri Lanka, right? So with that, and then the /MB, you know, Sri Lanka Accounting and Auditing Standard Monetary Board, CA Sri Lanka introducing the accounting standard, auditing standard, IFAC. So CA Sri Lanka connected with the international body. So there, so then you know, this institute not to the body /MB, the even the organization as well as auditor, right? Auditor also work and review, right? One of the watchdog. So like, so then the Security and Exchange Commissions set guidelines, you know, corporate governance section 9 introduced. So with that, and then other guidelines, regulation to the listed company. If you are the CFO of the listed company, you should have to know about this, that knowledge are there. So then Colombo Stock Exchange, they're the main body, they are the through regulation. So implement through the Colombo Stock Exchange, register with the Company Act. So there are guidelines recently, you know, this one of the guideline issue, beneficiary ownership, right? So we'll all detail are there, this presentation will discuss, but I want you to in advance this how critical and important of the regulated compliance and legal frameworks, what you should know as a chartered accountant, right? Even recently CA Sri Lanka introduced, you know, the regular legal and business law and legal that's called unit separately, right? Faculty. So that's how they also understanding how critical these things, this knowledge, you to get you to survive and you to work in the organization, right? So and also labor departments, shop and office act and all details there, BOI. So you are maybe a accountant, CFO in the BOI company. So they are tax benefit and all. So you should have to know about that knowledge, right? But almost act there, but you don't need to 100% to learn the act. But so general knowledge you should have. Somebody sometimes they are to conduct the role here. Now organization, bank, finance, there are all now recruiting data protection officer there, right? But you should have to know about this, what their role, how they work, even your CFO, how connect with them. So like kind of broader knowledge you should have when the board meetings, some questions raised, you have some understanding about talking about this. So like kind of knowledge is important you to this regulatory and compliance for the future chartered accountant. So with that, I think I overview give you to this slide. So we'll continue with the in detail about the this in detail in the in next slides. So right, hope you this I will look one slide to get the roadmap for the today's sessions. You know, strategic regulatory compliance, governance, risk management, who is the responsible for the compliance? Told at the top of the organization, board, ultimately responsible for the regulatory compliance, right? So how three line of defense, what is a management, compliance officer, internal auditor, what is the role there? All collectively effort, you to organization to sustain, run the business important, right? This strategic regulatory compliance in Sri Lanka regulatory landscape, what I previous slide share, number of regulatory and legal frameworks you to comply, especially industry specific, there are bank, finance, insurance, telco, so industry specific regulations and the tax transfer pricing, very complex, right? You know, audit, some professional service providers, separate department, those transfer pricing, very complex, right? So with that labor and environment law, so sustainability, emerging trend, S1, S2 now talk about this, one of the critical, so those areas and then the compliance and the internal audit. What is the internal audit, the role of the compliance, risk management, how their internal audit plan incorporate into the risk management part, what is their role in the risk management, compliance risk management perspective. So everything, so we'll discuss. Right. So if hello, can you give some comment? Is it you to clear and how I'm going very fast or any comment about this today presentations? I would like to, because this normally we are online, you know, recordings will only myself, right? Now is live session, so I would more like to interact with you all. So please, if you can't talk, you can put the message there, you know, chat box, you can put the message, right? Okay, okay. Okay, right, clear, right, okay. Okay, thank you, your comments, so right. So with that, now strategic regulatory compliance framework. So regulatory compliance report to the organization, obligation to comply, right? Laws, regulations are there, now professional standard, ethical requirements, what I discussed about the previous slide, all are under these three categories, right? So why is strategic important? To the organization to the comply with the rules and regulations. That is, you should have to know, protect enterprise value, right? If you are non-compliance, so what could happen? So if you have the financial penalties, and reputational damage, those will impact negatively in the enterprise's value, right? Maintain the corporate reputations, that is also important. Prevent the financial penalties, and then strengthen stakeholder confidence, right? If you are well managed compliance and regulations, so you have a strong strength about the stakeholder confidence. So you to business sustainable. Now we talk about sustainable word, right? Sustainably run the business is strength. Stakeholder confidence is key. So these why the all strategic important in the regulatory compliance and legal frameworks, right? The modern compliance environment, including the financial reporting law, so tax regulations, AML frameworks, labor laws, environmental laws, industry specific regulations, right? Just a previous slide due to show all. So, you know, AML, terrorist finance, those are very critical, even like, you know, IMF and all. So they all interact with the countries, they give into the, so they are loan and they want to, the, you know, financial system integrity. So those transparencies are more key. So those are very critical then. So individually we discuss about the each session, but now you to get the holistic view and the understanding. So this is all the, sorry, right. So Sri Lankan regulatory landscape. So, you know, accounting is standard, and then auditing is standard, then corporate law, we talk about the Company Act, capital market regulations, that call about the SEC and CSC regulations, and then taxation frameworks, Tax Internal Revenue Act, Transfer Pricing, Anti-Corruption Act, so one of the Anti-Corruption Act, Data Protection Law, Data Protection Act now already enacted, then AML, sorry, right there. So data protection law, then AML, counter terrorist financing. So these laws shape the governance, risk management, and compliance practices. So this is the expectation of these. All the major category of domain include. Right. Now we individually we will go to the in detail about the each act and regulations. So you to get the understanding, we will not discuss about all the act. No need to you to learn, but some understanding, general knowledge and understanding important. I will show you to in the last slide. There are a few questions in my theoretical question as well as the Sri Lanka mock. Then the pilot paper is their issue. So that paper, one of the questions I will show you to, then so you can understanding. So without you having this understanding, you can't read, right? Sorry, you can't write the exam. So sometimes theory people, this other thing also I want in advance cell. This is 80% like theory, right? That's but finance, advanced risk management. There are financial risks, right? Financial risk management, but don't think financial risk talking about the forex and interest rate. Some people have an attitude like this, but it's the first you have to credit risk, liquidity risk, market risk, and then other operational risk. Under the market risk come to the changes of the interest exchange rate, interest rate, commodity rate. So that component only the calculation you can expect from this subject, right? So sometimes maybe think boring, but I can show you to this subject very practical and practical world. So we'll connect it all the parts. So not like just reading books, you can't learn this, and also reading books you can't and memorize and you can't reproduce the exam, because Sri Lanka will none of theory will not test in the exam. So the practically how you can apply. So this is this program also my expectation, develop your thinking capacity and capability to how to practically apply and tackle the questions. So that is expectation with the very short period. Sorry. With that, so with the Company Acts, mainly the primary legislation governing company in Sri Lanka. So key point you to like the finance point of view, major transaction require the shareholder approval. So section 185, then section 219 and 220, the serious loss of capital avoiding mechanisms, then 211 director appointments, about 70 required approvals. So those is important, and study tests also mentioned, right? This is why. So then amendment 225, beneficiary ownership disclosure requirement. So that's one of the new thing for, transparency ensure. So there are slides I will show you. With that, one of the good amendments. With that, this persons you can't hide. So all the major shareholders, like say about 10% shares, you should, there are declaration to annual return along with the annual return, right? Existing company also now within the 6 months after this implemented have to share like kind of statement have to give about the shareholder name, any address change, like kind of details. I will share with you the more information that slide, but I know this new to you. That's in advance, just give some brief understanding. So those important enhance the corporate transparency and the support the anti-money laundering and compliance. That is this beneficiary ownership directly supporting the anti-money laundering. And sometimes some companies they are only PO box, no operations, and even people you can't identify with that money laundering, one of the source. So going through that channel. So with that, collecting the authority to who are the owners, how it's happening, all informations. So how to share with the authority. That is why important of this. So with that, there's 80 slide with the 2 hours. Actually, really challenging task, but I will try to do the maximum. I will try to give you the maximum benefit with this session. So this is the what I mentioned that section in detail. So Company Act number 7, this section 185 talk about the major transaction shareholder approval. So apply when the company enter into a major transaction. So exceed the 50% of the total asset. This is a requirement. So must be obtained from the prior shareholder approval by the special resolution. So the directors cannot proceed with approval. So their approval, right? So protect shareholder from the significant financial decisions made without consent. So that is one of the important, right? Protect shareholder from the significant financial decisions made without consent. I remember this actually one of the that City of Dreams, the John T. So that project I remember that time 10 years or 12 years ago. So that is one of the at that time one of the big business in there. So they have to get the approval from like. So they obtain that. That is how business to. So important this, and then how other stakeholder also protect, right? So protect the shareholder significant financial decision made without consent. So individual people cannot take on their own because organization there are shareholders. So according with the people invest the money, right? By the nature of the volume transaction in general, I want to give you to understanding. So that consent is need, right? So they are buying and selling large asset, borrowing large amount, entering major transactions. So hope you are this area sometimes you may learn, right, in previous, but just want to give you some few understanding about this. This is also section 209 and 22 serious loss of capital. Trigger conditions to apply to the mainly public companies when the net asset 50% or less than the stated capital. So they are indicated of serious financial deteriorations. So actions required to the board must call the extraordinary general meeting, and then the shareholder must be informed the final position of the reasons for the losses, and then the director must process the remedial actions such as cost reduction, capital restructuring. I think these are practical. I can tell if you go to Colombo Stock Exchange, there are a number of scenarios in company. I don't like to tell only like this, but if you go there, so this number of organization, this situation, how they face, then their CFO, what they have to do. So with the board discussion, how to give to the Colombo Stock Exchange their remedial action plan, right? How do they recover this situation back to normal? So you can practically can understand, right, these things, not the PowerPoint reading. So especially I tell you, once a day you have to visit the Colombo Stock Exchange. This subject, especially this regulator discussion, lot of in there, right? So I request you to as a practice the once a day visit there. So you lot of knowledge you can new directors appoint company, some director resign, sometimes company suddenly they resign the directors, right? You know now one of the things, one of the big bank frauds which is also people know like from there, right? So I request you to at least one day for please visit and there just go through those information due to value add, right? So with that additional comment, so I will move into this. So this shows the company section 211 director above 70 years. The person over 70 years can be appointed or continue to directly only with the shareholder approval. So require special notice and ordinary resolutions. So this approval must be obtained from the appointment continuation in the office. Ensure the shareholder agree to retain the elderly directors, right? So that shareholder approval require. And also, you know, that just I came to my mind, I tell as for the corporate governance also now, you know, about 70%. So can't say independent director, right? So that is also there. It's not like this corporate governor, but just 70. So that I captured. So that also came to mind. But keep in mind that is also corporate governance now say that about 30. Sorry, about 70 is that person no more independent, right? Nevertheless, independence no more apply. So with that, shall I move to the next slide? So this is also because someone else document I want to show ownership, otherwise not ethical. So this is I talk about this beneficial ownership is a new what is called new that the company act. So amendment. So this one of the articles. So is Mr. Suresh AI Pereira, who is I think tax expert, who is attached to KPMG. So he wrote, I think last 20th April, one of the good article, Daily FT. So with that information, I extracted you to infographic, you to get the understanding. I know if I tell you to go and read the article, I don't know how many people read, but you would get the understanding of the new things is important. With that, so I, who are the author, I explained, right? So this, that, so, but you can think this, the, who are the 10% of ownership threshold, that is why beneficial owner is there any natural person owning the controlling of 10% of or more. So that is called beneficial owner. So that is one of the key word in this amendment, right? Effective control over shares include individual who can appoint directors, influence strategic decisions regarding of the share name, right? So those some deadline for point of view guideline issues, right? So we can think share issue. So share issue and transfer, you have to share the 20 working days informations, and then appointing authorized persons. Any organization need to appoint authorized persons. So in the, you know, there are regulator, maybe register company, financial intelligence unit, any other tax or who have to visit that place, that persons have to provide this information, and person has to responsible to reply to that persons. Kind of appoint authorized person should be in the organization, right? So there are existing company also provide those beneficial ownership details according with the existing within the 6 months, right? After any, you know, the annual provide the annual returns, those beneficial ownership details, there are form, right? There you can BO 2, 1, 2, 3, like 5, there are forms. Those form information is there. What is the name, address, number of shares, like kind of information. Those informations have to provide the with the annual returns, but before this implemented, so this first level have to share with these informations. Hope you have understand about this. So there are liability, it's a deemed liability trap. The directors are responsible and liable for the company non-compliance unless they can prove the active due diligence, right? Now it's very complexity, right? The regulatory don't think you are sitting there after competing chartered. So very comfort seat, you can't work, right? Those are well managed in the regulatory compliance. You can sit. If not, So you also sometimes will get the penalty or whatever, right? You become the director. So definitely is there, right? So likewise, complexity is now more in Sri Lanka in the regulatory and legal environment. So with that, the effectively managing the regulatory and legal risk, that's one of the key in the any organization to sustain. So that message, please keep in your mind. So with that, hope you to this understand this slide. Strict reporting windows are there. Company have to 20 working days for the share transfer and 14 days for the profile change. Any share transfers, they have to share. Give me 1 minute. Right. Sorry. Shall we continue? So those information companies have those new changes within the profile change and the share transfer. All information have to share with the authority. Right. Hope you have understanding. So, hello. Can you give your feedback? So are you clear? Any doubt areas you need to get the more clarification no in your side? You can, if you can't talk, you can share that comment to the in the chat box. Hello. Okay. So are you sharing the P? Oh, we'll see. We'll see. Right now, we'll discuss with the online Nakuran, so that don't worry about that. Right. So we'll see. Any comments your side? Shall I continue like this way? All okay, sir. Right now. Okay, right. So that is okay, fine. Nah? So with that hope, write down new things, but I want you to get the understanding, at least you know about these things. So it is important. So now is I think this slide I want to take too much of time. This is about talking about the Sri Lanka accounting auditing standard Act and that regulated frameworks. So Sri Lanka accounting and standard monitoring board. So that is one of the key Sri Lanka very powerful independent body, right? To the so even organization financial reporting can corrections, even auditor role, right? Auditor role also can. So that is the body. So that so accounting standard, monitoring compliance with the auditing standard, improve reliability of financial reporting. That is the purpose. Right, strategic important, enhance the financial reporting capability, strength investor confidence. Those are the expectations. But in this slide, to the CA Sri Lanka is the one auditing and accounting standard. The implementation and authority. With that, also keep in mind. With that, I think I won't too much of time to take, but this one of the body. So you should know is one of the I think so. They are sometimes resources and all maybe but limited, but I hope some good contribution to the nations. But recently I noted this, they are now calling for the the financial report review from this part-time. So people who chartered accountant members, so they call from them to 3 weeks for the part-time reviewers. That means they want to expand further the number of organization frequency and the number of organization capacity. This is one of the good. So at the time, so I think this, so it is about this organization, this body. So this understanding for you to the next slide also will you catch this connected with this institute, right? This body, right? So we can think. So is that this one of the talk about the role watchdog versus lapdogs we call. So it's like watchdog people, so always independent, so objective evaluators, the protect shareholder interest and strict focus approach, critical and fair assessment do the watchdog. But in the lapdogs, so they are, with the favorism with the management, and so commendation to the management preference, less critical and favorable assessment, right? Some is the organization play the lapdog role, but that bodies can question, right? Bodies, there's a right to auditors to call the working papers and review their things, right? So that is why I put to this. So this organization watchdog role, but even auditor also we call watchdog who is not play this role, so they can assess, right? Sometimes not like foreign countries, they are European and all, what is it called, PCAB, right? Public accounting company audited oversight committee, like sometimes name may change, but they are very powerful. So not that much, but they have power, right? So they are like something auditor is something, this something professionally not properly done any job. So they, penalty, they are like restriction with the separate industry, not that much of level, but one of the sizable and a big role with this institute, right? Body, right? You to get the understanding, I put the slide also. So now is come to the our now company act already completed, some understanding I hope you have, and then other Sri Lanka Accounting, Monetary Board. So with that, so now in the SEC Act, one of the capital market regulations I told in advance. So with that, so with the regulated Sri Lankan capital markets, so the key areas, insider trading regulations and the market manipulation preventions, investor protection. So those regulations issues to the areas, right? These areas will covered under the issued regulations. So SEC rule, disclosure requirement, immediate disclosure requirement, director change, you have to immediately disclose, right? This you can remember, right? Now this fraud, irregularity, financial misconduct considered as a material event. Now this one of the bank's biggest fraud. So this come to the Colombo Stock Exchange, this under this immediate disclosure requirements. How practical this, right? So this is the requirement. Then the dividend declaration, if you dividend declaration, you can visit there, you can see number of now these days, 31st March companies, so they are dividend declare, right? Then related party transactions, loan default, major corporate transactions, all are immediate disclosures are required in the Colombo Stock Exchange, right? So if you are not, there are minimum, so 10 million fine, imprisonment 10 years, like possible delisting, those are not just disclosed, right? This is one of the worst case scenario, what could happen, nah? Otherwise don't even disclose this happen this, but I will, later part will discuss how there are penalties and all administration penalty to can go to the delisting, that's the disaster level, right? So that level can go, but there are step by step it happen, right? Not the one breach it happened, right? So there is a way. So hope you have understanding about this, some guidelines and all. So further, now general SEC guidelines. Okay, now this is one of the important you to also when you learn previous in corporate governance and all. Section 9 of the corporate governance. This is issue under Security and Exchange Commission listing rule. So that is important, right? So CA Sri Lanka with that Security and Exchange Commission issue the best practice of corporate governance, but this is the corporate governance listing rule. Can you tell why these two in different? One of the key factors there. Someone can tell what is the difference? This not the content, how you are thinking. Because I would like to interact with you because this is live in a few people. That doesn't matter, but your voice is most important, right? So why different is this listing rule issued by this under section 9 and corporate governance in the CA Sri Lanka issue the best corporate governance with the Security and Exchange. What do you think about one of the major things I know thing is there. So can you tell? Hello? Hello? You are prepared to put the chat or chat box also you can, so see most like this, right? Okay. right? You put the chat box. What is the difference? What is the difference? The content is there, but it's a Section 9 corporate governance listing rule, and they issue Sri Lanka and the Security Exchange Commission separate corporate governance, best practice of corporate governance. What are the key you think in the legal perspective, or you think, and you can comment. If you can't raise your voice, then you can comment. Hello. Hello. Can someone can comment? No comment. Right. So I will tell this. You know, this is corporate governance issued by Sri Lanka with the Security Exchange. This is the voluntary application, right? But this is the Section 9 corporate governance, this rule. If you have breached this, so this you breach the law. So that is how this is a mandate that our, we say like our, like that is a corporate governance book, you know, best practice, this is voluntary, but this is a rule. If you violate this, a rule violation. So that is why you have to know about this. All listed company is a critical this. So we will discuss key point, and then what are the changes in the last 2023 happened. Key point we'll discuss. That is one of the key, right? This if you are this violation, this is a rule violation. So that is why important. You should have to know this. That's why I want you to highlight this. This is a listing rule. Section 9 means this is one of the mandatory, right? No, that is why mandatory requirement, not the voluntary, right? So this, so hope it's like this. So you can think this consequence of the governance failures, fail to govern, facing the business sanctions, investor loss. So what could happen? There are different things happen, right? So suspensions happen, trading halt, and then you know this watch list transfer. So monetary penalties, you know, fine, administrative penalties, like say penalties there, trading restrictions. So what can go for the disaster level? Delisting, right? Delisting. Those are the, you know, that's if you not comply with the rules, regulation, so implemented by the Colombo Stock Exchange, I said, so that, so what could happen in the your organization, right? If you go to the, because that is I tell Colombo Stock Exchange, these different company you can, there watch list, there are companies, right? So like kind of, so this happening because if you not properly, so if you are some things not violated and if you not taken proper actions, so in what happened, delisting, that level can go, right? That's how this regulator and the, you know, compliance and legal risk, which is linked to always with the strategic risk, right? So strategic risk mean your business continuity is impact. Right? If you are talk in latter part, we'll discuss like the central bank and no central bank issues violations. You know, finance company they can cancel the license, right? If you cancel the license, you can't continue the business. That's how this component, this regulator part is important. So this subject also I want to highlight that time, not like one component. So you should have learned. So connected subject this. All are interconnected. If you gradually, if you learn this subject, you will realize if you go to the advanced risk management component, this is one of the your strategic risk, operational risk, financial risk, compliance risk. This is under this, right? If you not manage this properly, so end up convert to the strategic risk. That means you are licensed, you are finance company, you cannot properly manage the compliance risk, legal risk. But what could happen if the regulator may cancel the license? Then the strategic risk, right? You can't continue the business. Then how well and how important this, right? Hope you to understand about this also. With that, I think almost 1 hour. Yeah, it's only still the 20th slide, right? So this is the one of the silent amendment in the highlight and below in the easy reference for the this section 9 that what we discussed about the corpus listing rule, right? But all we don't have time, but I urge you to learn this, right, with you. So these areas you should have to get some understanding important into this component, as well as the corporate governance also they are separately. So that is also syllabus they are mentioned in this corporate governance, right? So this knowledge is important because you want to become a CFO in the PLC company, so you should have this understanding, right? So this is important you to get this understanding of the CFO, maybe chief internal auditor, right, chief risk officer, whatever, chief compliance officer, whoever foresees, right? I told in my previous session, foresees. Any foresees role, those information, this knowledge is important, right? Those are section 9.2 policies to be established, maintained by the listed entity. This slide is, I will tell you what are the policies, right? So then other chairperson of the board shall not be chairperson of the subcommittee, right? Chairperson cannot sit as audit committee chair, company chair can't chair, right? So that is a basic understanding. You get the requirement of the chairman, CEO duality, and the requirement of senior independent director, right? So fitness and propriety of the director and CEO, right? Anybody can't now appoint to the PLC listed company in the director. Fitness and propriety. So that is why look, their background check is there. Is liquidate persons, insolvent persons, like kind of there are areas check. Any person who is dealing with the anti-money laundering and all bad history. So those informations filtering very first stage, that's called fitness and propriety of the director and CEO. Is a very well this in the bank finance, very structure that, but even a PLC also same now in the corporate governance regulation guideline, right? So that is why to ensure the tone at the top, that is why tone at the top is the board members, they are ensured with the right people, right caliber people in the board don't see. That is one of the requirement, the expectation in this. So the minimum number of director of the board then listed entity. So those are there minimum number of independent director of the board, then amendment to the independent director criteria, that we discussed 70 years age, right? Nevertheless independent. So declaration board will not be applicable from this 1st October. So nomination and governance committee. So rules on sharing the board committee where both parent and subsidiary companies are listed. So revision of the composition of the remuneration committee, so revision of the composition of the audit committee, so all enhanced function of disclose of the annual report relating to the audit committee, much more details you should have to disclose on the audit committee, and as a disclosure note in the annual report, related party transactions, and then revision of the composition of the related party transaction review committee. So all enforcement and compliance, the corporate governance requirements, the revision of the procedure from the entity empower board and the alternative market segment. Now there are two boards, the empower board also. So that is also mentioned that, so that a few companies, they took capital, access the capital to the other than the main board, they are the empower board. So that Maharaja Foods, this company is there. I think Chris World, I hope, right? Maharaja Foods, I know, like kind of few companies, right? If you go to SEC, you can understand this. So this is the purpose. That is also there. This, but I in detail not go, but you to get the sizable of this subject and the volume should get the understanding. But in the what I can with this time frame, I will give you. But one of the mandatory governance policy. These policies are must be in the PLC. No choice, right? Must be. But first one policy on matter relating to the board of directors, and then the board and committees. So then the governance, nomination, re-elections policy, remuneration policy, the code of business conduct and ethics, right? All directors, employees, including policy on trading in the entity listed securities, right? So risk management and internal control, shareholder investor relations, and then the ESG, sustainability, right? Policy on control and management of company assets and the shareholder investments, policy on corporate disclosures, whistleblowing. So about the whistleblowing, you are in the company, sometimes you have PLC work, you should have sometimes whistleblowing, they have only the compliance officer with the policy, but people don't know. So that is the matter, right? So awareness is important, right? Anti-bribery and corruption. If you go to any of these PLC website, just so you check, these policy should be. Sometimes some policy directly is there, right? Someone, they say statement giving these policies we implemented and all there. But some company you can check. If you want it in detail, what are the components in each these, please go to, especially I can recommend in the finance company, definitely is there. You just Google it, so you can find 2-3 pages, right? Their information, right? Board committee, how board committee is structured, and all detail are there. But you do some more details want to get, so you can get more detail about that, right? All the PLC must be this, no choice, right? Must be, but I personally believe beyond the authority to fulfill these policies, but important is your organization, employees, how aware about this policy. That is the matter. Otherwise, Sri Lankan most of happen in the regulator and compliance, the requirement, because I have finance and all my experience, I know. So what they do is the regulator to satisfy, they prepare the policy, approved and keep with the compliance officer room, right? That if you go to the root level, even a branch, finance company branch, we ask something, people not aware. So it doesn't matter, none of policy no more valid, right? No point. But awareness, that is important about this, right? That point of view is a organization compliance officer, one of the big role to play to awareness about this some key policy, whistleblowing. So those are critical, fraud now today happening. So one of the, as per the, associate certified fraud examiner, so most of the fraud you are detected is your tips. So tips come how? Tips come in the people. So you to disclosing, right? That is purpose. Whistleblowing is important to any organization, right? But we should have people to, protection should be there. People should have awareness about the channel. There are channel, email, and then hotline. There are sometimes some organizations like kind of web-based reporting. There are multiple sources, but source with the people should have to know about this, right? Just I told about this anti-bribery corruption, right? Say you are the CFO in the construction company, so construction company dealing with the government, right? If you are construction, sometimes this happen. So maybe sales people with the boardroom, you are in the boardroom as a CFO, right? Sales, they forced to get the contract from the government sometimes. So you to get the award the contracts, you have to give something, right? So at that time, what is your voice? That you should also important this understanding, right? So if you are these things not properly follow, this reputation or damage happen, right? With the public exposed, something is you are dealing with some government organization and it happened, like say construction company. So you for all the contracts, you are giving something underhand, right? What I'm telling. So then those information are exposed into general public. What could happen to our organization, right? So that is why anti-bribery corruption now one of the critical and important. Right? That policy also there. So all policy, I hope you have some understanding with this, my explanation with the with short period, right? So, but if you want to more details, 2-3 pages, no more pages, but one of company select and just go through after you take a lunch with your first time. So you 10-15 minutes, even 2 days, you can do like that. You do that. That way, learning attitude is important like this. That is also I want to tell, right? This kind of subject don't learn to pass the exam. So this is you can bring into the your boardroom knowledge is this subject about the advanced risk management and corporate governance, right? So with that, shall I move? If I go in speed, oh, can anybody know? Oh, no one is speaking. That is why I'm very boring. Hello, someone can speak? Is it okay? Is it very fast? Or your comment is valid, right? Most important for you, me to. Can you someone put this chat box to comment? Hello? Hello? Who is a Kushani Jayasingh? So Mohammed Reza. Rang. Okay, Rang, just okay. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Okay, because I would like to interact with you. Otherwise, even we normally the recording is doing is okay, but this few people still, but connect with how you have get the understanding. Your feedback is most important, right? So this that in future our program also some customize. If you have any concerns, so please put the, even you can't talk, please put the chat box, so right we can consider it also, right? So with that, hope you this. Police, so policies we stop, and then now so enforcement and that watch list, so that the how this that's previous one also under that SEC guideline, this policy requirements, so otherwise don't misunderstand this enforcement and watch list, how immediately announcement they are the company rules with the first market day from the date of the non-compliance, right? Non-compliance must be rectified within the 3 months. There are criteria. So failure to rectify, so exchange enforcement actions, right? Watch list placements, penalties, the 500,000 for the each directors, right? So at the time of the transfer to watch list, but for a month until compliance or delisting, you have to comply, so that okay. So always delisting, maximum penalty 5 million for director. You can think if you are after completing chart and right, you are maybe CFO, and after you become a director, so you can think what the financial loss you have to incur is your organization, right? Not compliance with the rules and regulation, especially the listing rules and all, right? So this sizable amount you have to pay, right? So nobody can't sit and leisurely work can do. That is I want to again emphasize. So at the today regulatory or legal environment, so those dated, I think you can, they are right. So they must be paid within the 7 market day from the date of the notification, right? These things, I think, okay, with that. So this other also there, while that then trading restriction watch list period. So while security are on be watch list, the following person cannot be trade in the company security without SEC approval. So this watch list period. So there are sometimes directors, CEOs, their own chairs, right? So they cannot, trade. So without approval of the SEC, right? These are designation CEO and director, close family member, parent entities, entity control, 50% no voting rights, right there. The restriction continue even after resignations, right? Someone may resignation, designation as a CEO if the director or CEO resigning, but trading restriction continued 3 months from the resignation. That is why someone within the can, but he or she again after 3 months can't deal with this, trade with this, right? Until the company become a compliant, or whichever is occurs, until company become a compliant. So right with that of these so whichever. So enforcement and watch list, suspicions, delisting, the market announcement upon the transfer to watch list immediately after the being the place of the watch list, the listed entity must be disclosed the remedial action plan. That is I told. These thing you can practically learn. Please go to Colombo Stock Exchange. There are, I think, number of companies are there. So their announcement you can read and you can get the practical understanding how this happened, right? Other than these by heart, you want to memorize this 6 day, 1 day, these things, right? But this regulator, how critical and crucial, you can practically get the understanding, right? So this remedial action plan you have to do action taken to propose, and then to ensure the compliance with the 6 month, the mandatory statement to investors to have to how to recover these positions. That is the investor to you have to communicate, right? So that how, and then the announcement must be clearly deviation disclosures, and any changes to the remedial plan must be announced within the 1 market day of the board approval, right? Rest of the trading suspensions. So if the remedial action not implement 6 months, So trading will be suspended by the exchange, then risk of delisting. So that is a can whatever watch list, 6 month remedial action plans, still you can't. So there, but then suspensions, then after delisting, this is the worst case scenario. If you enter to the market with the lower cost, you may get the market access, right? So you learn why private become a listing, what is the benefit, right? Your reputation, everything, but everything you will lose with the delisting, right? So that is a what can go worst case scenario in this, right? This understanding, I hope you to understand about this enough. With that, so this side. The 25th slide I will do in the latter part, something that's come to here, right? Sorry, keep that, but I will explain after all explain 25th, right? So this is my, right, give me a 1 minute. So shall we take a 5 minutes break? So we can 9:20 like can continue. Shall we take a 5 minutes break? Okay, right. Sure. Okay. Thank you. right? So, after short break, so shall we continue? So you all okay, right? Hello, so can you the comments about chat box? After breaks to start, this is all of you are okay. So can you someone can comment in chat box? Okay, right. Right, Ranga, thank you. So with that, so we'll continue. I will continue this. So this is now you can now can understand how is broader your this area number of regulatory legal regulatory compliance and legal frameworks. Right now we initially discuss the Company Act and then the SEC, right? Slash MB, right? Like now is anti-corruption. So that is also one of the important. So you should have to know about this Anti-Corruption Act number 9 of 2023. And also I need to tell, right, as per your subject, so this 10%, even you have to, that theory learn, you should have to at least 10 hours to 12 hours, right? Even our the theory class, like 10 hours videos, 10 hours type, that allocations. But, with that, so we have to theory, so with the sense and a very short period. So that is, I try to do all 10 hours to maximum you to cover the within this 2 hours, right? Otherwise, don't misunderstand some area, something so deeper and deeper to go. But this, I think, capturing this knowledge, you to get to the exam purpose, you can, this knowledge is enough. You can tackle any question with this understanding. You can write the question. But in the factory work piece, you want to this anyway, any source, please learn this area much more new things. You can think this source are not like, 1980, 99, right? 2023. So now new things come to, so lot to we have to know about this, right? So with that, so this Anti-Corruption Act number 9 of 2023, the strength of the anti-bribery and anti-corruption frameworks. So key element anti-bribery enforcement, corporate liability provisions, whistleblower protection mechanisms. Those are the key element in this act. The strategic objective is promote the ethical corporate governance and accountability. So within the governments as well as private also apply this. I will show you how is it apply, and I will practical example I will tell. But in the scope and applicability, who is covered? Public officials, ministers, MPs, and then member of parliaments, like this, and then the government employees, regulators, procurement officers, private sector directors, managers, agent, contractor, consultants, right? So that is, I told you to one of the classic example, like Sri Lanka, even a construction company. So this is one of the critical, because they getting the award from the contract award from the government. So that how that responsibility come from the private sector, right? So that is, you should have to know about this. If you are dealing with the government, so we have to careful with this, right? With this act. So if you are violating these regulatory things, so then end of their punishment are imprisonment. So that level, so penalties and all these have to suffer. So that is how critical this act, right? What conduct is covers offering, I say giving, receiving, asking, undue advantage, cash or non-cash, improper influence over the decisions, right? Approval, license, procurement, tenders, some influence can do, right? Sometimes, conflict of interest, some persons are there, right? Person to be positioning that position, so lot of things can do, right? Then can do to other persons to influence, right? So that is also that cover this under this act, right? So this is say that is why some you can think some Sri Lanka now politically some some I can't exactly tell these things, but some donation giving like different matter. Sometimes that politicians not like distribute. Someone is to the belong to the persons. So, but secretary or someone, but decision maker, right? He can influence, right? With that, he or she has to go to jail, right? So, practical example I explain you too, like kind of this. So, one of the critical and important, like Sri Lanka, like developing countries, these are one of the need for the strengthen the governance within the country, right? Other than saying good governance and all word not important. These kind of regulations is important in a country like Sri Lanka, right? So that's the key definitions, exam focus, you to get the understanding about this. Corruptions is talk about the abuse of the entrusted power of personal gain or undue advantage, which is talk about the corruption, right? That is the abuse of entrusted power for personal gain or undue advantage. So bribery, so giving, receiving, requesting of the benefit to influence the decisions. There is a bribery. So how define? So then gratifications and benefits. So cash or non-cash advances, gift, favor, service, job, discounts, kind of different things, right? You know about this. I won't explain more explain about this, right? So this is a conflict of interest, personal interest interfere with the duty and creates a bias. That is about the conflict of interest, right? Personal interest interference with the duty create the bias, right? Now conflict of interest. So this, this is one of the classic is talking about the bond scam in Sri Lanka. So that is one of the conflict of interest, right? Some persons is positioning in the country, one of the body. So that person's relative, someone else, so can give in benefit, right? So that can create conflict of interest situations, right? So that is a whistleblower. Right, persons reporting corruptions in good faith, that is called whistleblower. You know that your PLC work, even most of the company, they are whistleblowing policies, right? There are reporting structure and also, right? So offense under the ACE, that's don't forget, otherwise don't misunderstand. No, forget, don't misunderstand this ACA, because you are after completing this few subject, you are in the associate chartered accountant, but this is not bank. This is a Anti-Corruption Act, right? Otherwise, some misunderstanding. So don't. This is Anti-Corruption Act, right? So co-bribery offense, offering, giving these acceptance and influence duty decisions. Corruption offense, misuse of authority, undue advantage, corruption procurements and decisions making, tender and contract related offense, bribery to withdraw the tender, bribery for assistance, influence to the government. So these are very critical. Even government, some tenders are going, 2-3 people are so offering. So then middle in the going the case that offering, some people are withdrawing, right? So those some kind of dealing is going, right? So that kind of situation also there. So with that, I think this knowledge is enough for that, and also key corporate governance measures. What you should have to do this key corporate governance policy procedure. That is why. That's I told one of the policies. Sorry. Then one of the 12 policies I told you to what mandatory in the guidelines. One of the policies is this, right? Anti-corruption policy. That is why policy procedure. How to key corporate governance measures. So policy procedure, anti-corruption policy, give hospitality register and COI declarations, those are important. Whistleblowing mechanisms, hotline, protection against the information provider, and then risk assessment, identify the bribery persons, and area, procurement is one of the highest in the bribery. And then the licensing, the payments, now happening now, licensing is, that RMB and all, lot of incidents happening recently, right? Lot of people are jail and bail out, things like that. So practically you can think, right? So RMB and all. So with that, so this is how the monitoring and reporting, internal audit forecast, periodic compliance reporting to board, and then the due diligence, third party, mergers and acquisition, agent and contract, risk base. Then how corporate governance measures. First, you should have policies, board, tone at the top, should have approved policies and procedures for the anti-corruptions. Then, so strong whistleblowing within the organizations, that is important. And the risk assessment identified by the areas, what are the toll, procurement, licensing, payments, those are the one of the key and high risk area in terms of the anti-corruptions, right? Those should have to well defining risk assessment and also monitoring. Internal auditor, one of the part of the internal auditor to review their risk assessing about the related to anti-corruption and the bribery areas. So including their annual risk-based audit plan. So, right, so they can conduct the independent reviews and give to the board and audit committee to their independent view. So then can suggestions given to them, value addition to them, right? Likewise. So due diligence also same. That governor role, board compliance officer. I just now together one explain all the things. Board here set anti-corruption policy. Right, then establish a tone at the top. That is one, right? Something happened, is someone raised about the tone. So can't tell board is, that is why oversight and accountability role. So that is belong to the board. So that is why it's one of the responsibility to establish tone at the top to the policy and procedure at the cost of conduct and the anti-corruptions. Then oversee the internal audit control and risk management. How the adequacy of the internal auditor coverage about this area, then audit committee can questions, that is the board role as a audit committee member, right? Approve the risk-based due diligence risk, high risk partners, transactions have board level approval, so will contact with the authority, so then you can put the value metrics, this below this transaction, so both must approve, so that is one of the approach, right? Compliance officer implement the framework, conducting training, awareness, that is a responsibility, performance risk assessment, audit, report incidents, right? One of the incident reporting, those document maintaining, this is a compliance officer as a second line defense role, right? So he or she is the one of the responsibility awareness within the organization about this, whatever these areas. So awareness improving is one of the key agent in the organization, compliance officer. Hope you have understanding about these type of area. Your knowledge is important because exam. So we will discuss in the pilot paper that question. So examiner will test like this level, this kind of regulator will link with this kind of broader level, and what their role responsibility, giving some bad case, and you to assess that case, and you can approach this to begin as a consultant, how you can advise to the company. So what is the role of the board and the three line of defense, so that roles you can advise to the board how to this kind of incident not to prevent and establish the proper culture. So that way, so type of question you can expect in a exam, right? With that, right now is one of the key, right? This is also discuss about this anti-corruption act. Now other thing is personal data protection. So this is one of the critical and important, right? Data. So you are fingerprint, what you can do today, it's important. So country, sometimes country leaders leaving from country, like some countries, so that how that generations so use the data, right? Fingerprint, what can't do. So like most important is personal data today. Organizations, I think this one of the most value asset in the organization, the data. So that data is important. So that is why this Sri Lanka actually, so we have lucky, so they identify this and this act enacted with the personal data protection, so that few areas, too much this session I can't discuss, but key point I will discuss about you, right? So with that, regulator personal data processing, cross-border data transfer, privacy protections, right? Regulate, and then the organization must implement data governance policy, cyber security control, data breach reporting procedure. You have to report this authority, right? Data protection authority within the time frame. If something is you identified, so you should have to inform so authority. So like kind of some persons can claim my data is, some organization is misused this authority, right? They will raise the question from your organization. Within the 14 days, you have to reply. So kind of one of the most important and value authority. So in Sri Lanka, established in the last 2-3 years, So with the current context, cyber security now talking now in the Sri Lanka government also under hacking, right? That's how you can understanding how critical and important these things not belong to into the private sector, right? Not belong to one entity. So it's a country, organization as a person to you also important, right? So that is how data and data protections are important. So with that, data protection is now is critical regulated compliance, right? So with that, shall I move next slide? So with that, effective data and applicability is there just to get the understanding. You don't need to, by heart memorize, right? So data protection process data after 18 March. This personal including collection, storage, use, disclosures, and deletion and eraser side all processing include. So you must comply with the organization processing personal data folio part in the Sri Lanka. Sometimes some organization here operation, those are service providing in the outside of Sri Lanka. So those entity also should comply with this entity incorporated in Sri Lanka, and PDPA override other laws where the protection of the personal data is concerned. Right? Exclusion are there. Some personal data deleted before March 18th of 2025, right? The PDPA is set to fully operate under the enforcement of this act. After that, data is so before that, so there are inclusion, right? In anonymous personal data, data relating to legal person, any company, and all those are exclusion. Now, this name also keep in mind personal data protection, right? That is want to keep in mind this act, right? So with that personal household purpose, exclusions are there, right? With that. Right, next slide, financial data. So data is critical for the finance sector. This data protection is now already so effectively applied and effectively work in the bank, finance, insurance, after that healthcare. So those are very hurry and because they know what is important and critical to this industry. You can find now they are top job and all their vacancies. Data protection officer now is their cadre, this organizations. That's how critical and separate designation and separate responsible person in the company to the data protections. So he or she must deal with the authority and regulations, and that regulations then begin to the your organization, all employees. That means awareness will do in the data protection officer. So he is one of the key responsible persons now is come to the organization cadre, especially bank, finance, and I think insurance, even healthcare also those are already. So bring into that caliber person to their company to take over this responsibility and this role under the Data Protection Act. So now you can understand how critical and crucial in the data in the company. So data subject identifiable human being, alive or deceased, right? Personal data, any of identified person directly or indirectly, example name, NIC, location, online identification, financial data, those are the personal data. So special category data, the race, ethics, and then political opinions, religions, genetics, biometrics, health, sex, life, and all. So now if you can now, I think, apply to the some vacancies and all, you can think their organization asks your CVs. We are taking to our database. You giving the consent. You have to give the consent. So some big company. So already now it's come to like this, right? You apply in the job like LinkedIn and all. So there are clauses. So those clauses come from this act, right? So this is how data is important. So practical, I told you the practical scenario, right? So with that offense convenient data and child the 16 below data special category, right? Key definition financial data into the identified data relating to accounts, card, payment instrument, customer, financial institution relationship, financial status, credit history, remuneration. You know, I'm talking about this finance sector, bank, how those are dealing with the personal information, right? That is why most critical about this fact in this finance and banking industry. So exam tip like the NIC, account number, credit card, like personal data, financial data. So high risk control. So much needed controls, right? You have breached these type of data. So you have punishment there, administrative and regulator. So punishments are there, right? So and person also can raise, someone is breach or disclose your collected data. So you can, there's the authority to complain. So that is why other side also there. Right, with that, so one of the key, this is one of the big act, but I took this slide to you to get some understanding about this act. These three components is one of the most important in terms of this learning about this act, but there are a number of pages in this act. I don't think all things you won't learn, but these three are important. So to the any data, there are three parties we identified, right? What is the controller? What is the processor? What are the joint controller? These three are critical in the data under the Data Protection Act, right? The controller is the person who determines the purpose and mean of the processing, right? Your data. So example bank, right? We decide how and why your data is used. That is a controller, right? The processor is the personal data. Processor process personal data on behalf of controller. This is the processor, right? Like, you know, sometimes in my experience, I can tell finance company. So there are, you know, recoveries, there are, you know, bad cases and all. So normally they give into the, you know, retired security persons, you know, officers. They are in the collecting, they have connect with the region, you know, police and authority, and, you know, with their that professional experience, they are the one of the key person to collect. That means third party recovery persons, right? But he or she, to you giving your customer the information, right? So that is the one. You use the finance company, the controller. So is the third party recovery person. He is the one who is the processor, right? He will do on behalf of the organization collecting. But that is if you outsource service to that person, so you can't outsource accountability under this act. That is one of the critical, that the processor controller who can outsource the personal data, right? Process of the personal data, you can outsource the processor, but you can't accountability within the controller. So that is that example I told with the practically that the finance company, you say bad cases appointed to the recovery persons, right? I told finance that military background. So that's the person with the service level agreement, you can agree and he will do this recovery part. At the time you have to share with customer detail, customer balance, phone numbers, now what type previous share data information you have to share. But at the time something happened, right? But who is the responsible to? The person who is the controller is responsible. Finance company is responsible. That is one of say outsourcing does not outsource the accountability. You cannot outsource. That is one of the critical important terms in this act. So that is, you know, most of the organization like bank, finance, there are areas bank can outsource, right? Finance also same, but within that area also, you have to outsourcing, you have to give your information, right? So their customer information you have to share with that, no? So that time, so this is the ultimately responsibility, accountability belong to the controller, right? Now you understand controller, who is the controller, the processor, right? Data entry agency, we process the customer database, right? That processor, that previous case, what I explained, who is the third party person who recover that case, right? With the service level agreement can do, no? So that persons. But in the, what are the joint control mean? They jointly determine the purpose and mean in the jointly responsibility. It's an example like bank and finance company, if you can think. So both decide together how your data is used and both share the responsibility. It's like a two entities same. So they commonly they share the responsibility. That is called joint controllers, right? So hope you have understanding controller, who is the controller, who is the processor, and the joint controllers. But ultimately, that is the important thing you should have to know, because practical case you can ask, who is the ultimately incident giving even data breach, right? If you say these third party, you give customer information, he or she may, these data is a breach, right? That things, even a person who complain to the authority, so ultimate responsibility controller can't say we give it to this person and he's with our agreement he is responsible, but this the controller, who is the controller, ultimately responsible for the data, right? So hope you have understand about this, that one of the most important word then accountability is there under the Data Protection Act. Hope you have understand about this, but there are some other area. I hope you read this better, but there are 80, 2 hours, within the 82 hours, if I'm not mistaken, 82 hours, some incident you identify data related. So company have to report to the authority. So it's like that deadline also there, right? Even someone with the complaint authority inquiry from the organization, that is also 14 days, like if I'm not mistaken, like kind of deadline there, right? So any other further there, but I think this knowledge up to this time frame, you to enough with that next come to Computer Crimes Act. So that is also I put that this current world. So in the current environment, those are data, internet, online. So we all, our lifestyle connected to this instrument, right? Devices to handle our life, right? So with this, these act play the key role. That is important. So that is one of the Computer Crime Act. So prevent and criminal and unauthorized access and misuse the computer system, cover the data theft and manipulation, system interference, illegal use of the devices, apart of the offense Sri Lanka and affect the system data local in Sri Lanka. So this use of the hacking and the data breach, malware, so internal system abuse, all under this Computer Crime Act, right? So with that, so Cyber Security Act, bill, Cyber Security Act bill is come. So that is also some understanding you to get the strength the national cyber governance and protection, critical information infrastructure, enable incident reporting, response coordination and enforcement, set the legal duty for organization to adopt the security and resilience measurement. But you like can ask, right, question examiner, you can ask government institute, right? Now these lessons learned, so these incident happen, these happen. What you suggest as a the institute person or consultant, what you have suggest to prevent these things? Then you have to bring in this knowledge. You can write the answer, right? So that is keep in mind those are very alert. Then hot topic, even examiner definitely test Sri Lanka. I mean, so not the outdated things check right now. If you go back, there are new cases are definitely they check. Even if one of the healthcare company in Sri Lanka, so that auditor disclaimer their opinion, right? So one of the I remember CA paper, so that come in a different way. So they ask that giving this disclaimer opinion, what remedial actions and all. Like so this even this government matter, definitely sometimes a different way question will ask this government institute how these cyber security and all important and all awareness how can do, what is the government role, you are in the organization officer role. So different way can ask, right? Very hot topic now. Even other thing also I can tell, even a bank fraud, this. So that is also definitely different way. Sri Lanka examiner definitely will can test, because this case also, if you not relevant, but I can tell you, that is also your syllabus, compliance, even internal audit, risk management, corporate governance, ethics, all five can connect this fraud, right? Even we will last hopefully 3 papers. One of question I will develop in the based on that, and so give you to get the understanding about this, because definitely they will test, because these communicate, these dialogues we need, right? Something happen. We're talking very 5-star level things, but in the ground reality, what is a level, right? So that we have to talk about this, right? So with that, so we'll continue about this. Additionally, I talk you to be how to think examiner thing, right? That is also important. If we go to exam, I know this, you go to pass the 50 marks. So number one is that is so we also think like if you are do the fraud, especially my experience I am telling. So we like forensic audit, we do like this. We have to think like the poster how to act. So we have to think that is the way how we can do fraud forensic investigation. Even now this revision program, now this 1.5 month you learn. So you are safe, you learn everything. You also have to think what examiner think. So that is important, right? So that is I told about this. With that, so this cyber security bill and more area about this. So cyber security bill, offense may lead to fines and imprisonment depending on the severity of the harm case. Then the higher penalty where critical infrastructure, public service, or large scale harms is all. The court may order, right, though there are device use and compensation, remedial actions, someone you can take, the court can take over, to CID will take over, right, with the court order, devices, and then go through, and now is drugs dealers and all, different foreign countries just to bring into Sri Lanka. So they are instrument, and so a lot of evidence and information gathered by the criminal investigation department, right? So that is how is important. At that time, these kind of regulation should be there. Otherwise, someone person going, your phone taken and you can't check. No. So like kind of regulatory environments, that is why important. Then so further new things we have to think with the AI and cyber security. Now further we have to strengthen need regulatory, especially need in update regulator and also separately court structure or whatever. We need this kind of matter to quick attention important. Even government also, I think government will realize this with the recent incident, how important further. So with that, shall I move to the next slide? Now we are still, so sorry. So with that, so these government board of director responsible, these are very important. Now with the examiner most of time this way approach you. So given scenario and these kind of breach, cyber security breach, cyber security, one of the role we will discuss in the corporate governance, that is a board one of responsibility, right? But here also this approach, this knowledge you need to, because given the case, what the role of these people, board of director responsibility, role of the compliance officer, those are important. Approving the risk, cyber risk appetite, policies, internal control frameworks, oversee the investment in the security controls, cyber resilient capabilities, ensure the incident reporting to the board audit committee, follow-up actions, and ensure third-party vendor risk address, outsource, cloud, payment gateway, now all organization, so your payment, not like previous, no check, right, in cash giving, so online payment approach. So that at that time you have to assess the risk, right? Somebody can, now hackers is a government, payment system to access and some huge amounts, so that so they still, right, that hacker too. So that is how important you can think. Even organization also, we have to go like this online, new technology, new devices, we can't skip. But in the term of this risk assessment, proper risk assessment is important to we to survive and we to protect. So that is important. So that have to ensure by the board of directors under responsibility. Role of the compliance officer, ensure the organization comply with the cyber related law, regulations, internal policies, maintain breach register, incident register, then review the incident reporting files and reporting system, reporting documentations, coordinate with the IT and so legal risk, internal audit, and delivering training, awareness, and monitoring recurring compliance issues. Those are one of the compliance officer. He is one of the should be the awareness person. This culture bringing to the organization responsibilities compliance officer. So with that, so examine the compliance function enable governance assurance, right? So that is hope. With that, I will. So okay, we'll see. So anti-money laundering. So how are you all okay with how any comments you are? How many people are there? I still right. Okay. So any comments? So I will okay with this speed. Some areas, some some speedily explain. You are okay with this approach? Or any comment? Someone can comment. Hello. Oh, okay, right. With that, so So this is another one, anti-money laundering frameworks. You can think how complex, right? Regulatory and legal frameworks, very complex. But you don't know which area test. That is why you should have to know. Data protection, I will show in the pilot paper, 10 marks, they given to the data protection. So sorry, this anti-corruption, right? So they can test either one, but these also very hot topics. And also I heard recently that that FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, they are going for next version of revision of the anti-money laundering with the International Financial Task Force. They are one of the global anti-money laundering protection, anti-money laundering, this global institute. They have regional and we also part of the member of this. With that, with their coordination and collaboration support with, we also implement the anti-money laundering frameworks. So with the Sri Lankan anti-money laundering frameworks, Prevention of Money Laundering Act number 5 of the 2006 and the Financial Transaction Reporting Act number 6 of the 2006 and the supervision of the terrorist financing, that is talking about terrorist financing, and the Act number 25 of the 2005. So the objective is to detect the financial crimes, prevent the terrorism finance, improve the financial transparency, and ensure the financial system integrity. That is one of the, those are the objectives, right? Hope you have understanding with this. I will now. Right now is money laundering. So you know about the money laundering now we act. And now money laundering is there are money laundering in key step. What are the key step? One of the first one is the placement. Right, money, you are entry to dirty money. That is how what is called placement. So maybe cash deposit, casino, business, buy bank drafts. So like this example, like 200 deposit daily, right? That is a placement. So they are, that means entry to dirty money. So money laundering. So you forget about the this laundry, you have to think, if you are going for the laundry, so you are dirty cloth to clean. No? So same is a money laundering is dirty money. So bring into the legal aspect. So that money laundered throughout this process, that person try to clear this dirty money to the legal aspect, right? So this is the way how to do these three approach. Then layering, hide the money trail, right? Multiple transfer, shell company, tax haven countries, some in the world, there are those companies, they are starting PO box, only PO box company. So that is how shell company established. Then crypto, fake invoice. Now bank fraud, we can apply to this. That persons, as per existing public available information, now he took this money, that we not taken fraud, right? So it not happened, that kind of fraud is not in the world now, right? So that money now say, some this matter is there, right? One of the person is arrested in the north or east, that is crypto, right? That is one of the way layering, right? Practically you can think, and the recent matter also, that is how happen. Fake invoice sometimes. So is how layering happening. That fund sent to the abroad as a consultant's fee. That is why. So you can do like this. That is how layering do. This example. So integration, bringing as a clean, bringing back as a clean, bringing back as a clean. Buy a property, car, invest in the business, fake loan repayments, right? That is how the integration is happening. So lend the money, buy a luxury home. So that is why now is a real estate, those are jewelry company. So those are one of the critical. So they also have to assessing this. Someone want to buy the real estate apartment, right? So even a jewelry also, especially that stones, they are not the gold type, but they are stones very high value. So with that, so that declaration have to give in this where your fund, so where you come, how to purchase this property, like kind of information, your KYC information have to provide. So that is one of the sources is this. Then vehicle and real estate. Those are the one of the how they begin to the clear asset in the dirty money. This is how happening in money laundering. Key 3-step: placement, layering, integrations. Placement, entering to dirty money. So layering, throughout the layering, multiple layers, not like one, right? Multiple layers to they try to hide this trail. That is why multiple transfer, shell company, right? Tax haven, there are Cayman Island and all, very well this. So these countries, so this they try to transfer. Then crypto, that is one of the high risk now today. Crypto, most of the country very less regulation of crypto. So with that, that's one of the good layering approach. You are buying the crypto, right? That is one of the approach. And fake invoice, you can, that the consultancy fee, someone can put the fake invoice and you can pay that amount, right? That transferring can happen. So if the integration, bringing back as a clean, hide the money trail and begin back as a clean, then you have to buy property, car, invest in the business, fake loan. So that is how happening. Dirty cash, placement, layering, integration, clean money. That is called money laundering. So hope you have some understanding about this, right? So with that, I will move to this money laundering reporting officer. That is one of the important, because this slide I took with your study test also, same information there, right? So this money laundering reporting officer is one of the important role playing the organization's key responsibilities are monitor the suspicious transaction, report financial intelligence unit. So he's the one who connect with the financial FIU, financial intelligence unit. They will request informations. The money laundering officer have to share with these people time to time reportings, whenever the guidelines or regulations. So have to share with the employees as a awareness session. Have to conduct, right? Implement the AML training. So maintain the AML policies, anti-money laundering policy, anti-money laundering trainings. Money laundering reporting officer plays a critical role in the financial crime prevention. That is right, financial crime preventions. So hope you have understand about this, about the role about the money laundering reporting officer. Sometimes these kind of person not directly designation like this, right? Sometimes compliance officer is this role play in the organization, compliance officer, right? So like this, some company like this, casino, and no, sometimes this kind of designations, so persons have to, they recruit and so give this responsibility, right? So this is the one about the money laundering reporting officer role. So these all keep in mind, sometimes these areas can ask practical questions, right? Just not the what is there, what is how to do and all, but that is why all key point I begin to there and explain, because this you should have to know how to anti-corruption happen, how to money laundering. Without knowing of this, you cannot give in the good answer. That knowledge you should have. This will not, but that knowledge you need to advise to the as an advisor, as a consultant. You have to give comment, no? You have to give in your answer, right? So for that purpose, you should have to know, right? With that, sorry, this is next one. This is about the terrorist finance. What is the terrorist finance? Is the key steps with the example, the how to raise the finance funds. Terrorist finance is doing raise the funds is the charity, NGO, criminal activities, state sponsor, some terrorist finance, state sponsors are there, right? So NGO collections, collect the donations and then transfer fund, sending the money. So there are system there, and Hawala system, crypto, that is why crypto were highly vulnerable to the anti-money laundering, terrorist finance, highly vulnerable, right? So online pay, then a bank, right? There are mullahs, then all are they transfer fund throughout the different way, right? So then those funds financing terrorism, weapons, bombs, safe house, training camps, they use the funds. So that is how terrorism finance is happening in the world. Raising funds, different way, charity, NGO, criminal activities, some sponsor, some state is sponsor, right? So then transfer funds, different way. So finally, that finance, that these funds used to buy the weapons, bombs, safe house, training camps. So that is how terrorist finance, everything, raise fund, transfer fund, used for the terrorism, right? Hope you have some quick understanding there with the terrorist finance. With that, our time. So with that, is there time? Another 20 minutes. I will see. So those are global. I will not take too much of time. So global AML CFT frameworks. If you go to this Financial Action Task Force website, you can learn a lot of things there. There's a UN conventions, the international cooperation principles. Even Sri Lanka also implementing anti-money laundering with these institution bodies support, right? Purpose of the prevention abuse of the financial system and the detect and disrupt the illegal finance. That is the purpose. So FTR, that is one of the new Financial Transaction Reporting Act. This is also, you have to know about this Financial Transaction Reporting Act is operational AML and CFT law, focus prevention, detection and reporting. The institutional lead the compliance, FIU oversight and enforcement. Under the Financial Transaction Review Act established by this institute, it is called Financial Intelligence Unit, right? So this is one of this authority under central bank. So they are implement the regulation rules to the organization within the country wise, right? This study from, so right, okay, this enough that where we are global. Right. So this also scope of this financial transaction. So Review Act, Financial Transaction Reporting Act, financial institution, bank, financial leasing companies, insurance companies, stockbroker, money changers and all. There's some other person also. Don't think the institution only apply this, right? Designation, non-financial business and professional. That is also apply this act. Accountant, auditors, lawyers, casinos, real estate, right? Dealers in precious and metal stones. That is, I say, some jewelry is not like a 22 karat like this, but some stone, blue sapphire, like kind of highly valuable stones. So like this, or you are an accountant, you are auditor, so you are client. So if there are some things you identify, what is your role? That is also important. Even recently, Sri Lanka is a connect with this FIU. There are session conduct to the CA members about this anti-money laundering financials. What is their role? And under the Financial Transaction Reporting Act, what is their role? Those are important, right? The lawyer also, they also dealing with drugs dealers and different they are clients, right? They have to work. So their job, they have to work. So with that, they also duty, right? So this is about this institution and designation and financial business professional covered under this Financial Transaction Reporting Act. So with that, key obligation under the Financial Transaction Reporting Act, customer due diligence, KYC, identify, verify customer identity, beneficiary owners, business purpose, and then enhanced due diligence. That is important. This is enhanced due diligence come to the PEPs. We call PEPs. Well, who are the PEPs? Can you tell PEPs? I'm only talking, right? I know this. Okay. Who are the PEPs? Right? Who are the PEPs? Can someone comment? PEPs? Right. This, that, politically exposed persons, if you're politically exposed, so that minister relations and all, so they are under the high risk category, right? With that, not the customer due diligence, they to apply even enhanced due diligence. Beyond the customer due diligence, further they go in depth and review. That is called enhanced due diligence, right? Apply extra scrutiny to scrutiny. Filter extra scrutiny to the high risk customer, that is called PEP. High risk countries also enhanced due diligence do, right? Some country also they are, if you say some financial crimes is very high, so they are in some ranking and all, corruption and all, very top level as per the Transparency International. So that type of country you are working, so you have to enhance due diligence need, right? So that is also there. Ongoing monitoring, so continuous monitoring transactions for the suspicious activities, and then the suspicious transaction reporting, report the suspicious transaction to the FIU, the record keeping, maintain the record for the last 6 years, So internal controls and training, implement AML, CFT, policy training, audit, compliance officer, appoint a compliance officer to oversee the AML, CFT, the risk assessment, conduct the risk assessment, apply risk-based approach, submit including cash transaction, electronic fund transfer, transaction exceeding 1 million. So you have to report this financial intelligence transaction under this act, right? You have to report. So, but suspicious transaction report also, someone may be materially amount is less, but you are suspicious. You identify that. That is also you have to report with that, right? So, with that, hope to understanding with this. I will. What is this? So now next, role and power of the FIU. This I will not too much time. Receive and analyze the financial transaction report, because financial institution, bank, different authority, organization report, they have to analyze this, disseminated intelligence to the law enforcement agency, conduct investigation when necessary, share information domestically and internationally. That is I told me that this FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, work with the international bodies. Those information have to share with them, right? With that, so then role of the compliance officer and 3 line of model. So that is also important. So the internal auditing have to, the review. Internal auditor, one of the role, first line, we will start the first line, right? Now you can easily first line, operational managers. So they are the one who have to own us, right? So that if you are say branch manager, even a finance company, so he or she is the one who is responsible to bringing AML, assessing the customers, when the fixed deposit raising customer, even loan giving, there are assessment have to done by the branch level. That is why operational call first line. Their duty. So proper documentation, not the compliance officer. That's the urgent department head, especially bank finance. My experience, I can tell branch managers. They are the one who have responsibility, customer due diligence to do at the time of business with them. Right? Identify their any PEPs, so need to do any enhanced due diligence, right? So all things. Those are first line operation. The second line is compliance and risk management. Compliance officer educate and this reporting structure develop and deal with the authority, right? They are raise concern to reply on behalf of the company with the board advice, right? That is a compliance officer. Awareness of the employee, organization, risk manager also role, because a part of the risk management. This is a regulator compliance under one of the risk management. So he or she have to risk manager point of view to look what is the existing organization capacity, risk appetite with the existing risk tolerance and all. So these matters how will impact, right? Then the third line, internal audit. Internal audit have to assess effectiveness and efficiency of the in terms of this anti-money laundering, financial terrorist finance, and also then other related compliance, effectiveness and efficiency. That is a part of the internal audit role. So and the audit plan, annual risk-based audit plan. So any deviation, loophole, control improvements have to advise to the owners, business owners, with compliance officers, branch managers, as well as ultimately board audit committee. So that is a role of the internal auditor, independent assurance given to about the board. If you are like example, I can tell it the bank. If you are finance company internal auditor, CIA, so their team is to branch. At that time, branch scope, audit scope, one of part of the compliance review with the AML, KYC, those documentation at the time of the customer entering with the contract with the company, right? Finance company, maybe you are giving loan, even collecting public deposit. At the time, those requirements are there, right? You should have to assess those documentation done by them on time or properly done in line with the regulator guideline. So there are some notice published in the branch. So those are there. All information can check by the internal audit, and further advice, further improvement they can do. Internal audit, right? Then oversight, board level, what is the role? Ultimately, oversight and accountability. Because so you can first line, second line, third line, the subcommittee in the organized company, all through board, ultimately accountability and oversight responsibility. They want to attend, but they throughout the third line and the subcommittee to effective the AML and then not the terrorist finance as a whole regulator and compliance risk management responsibility belong to the board, right? So there is a compliance officer also, I told, monitor and reports such as XPTL, second line role play, awareness and all. Hope you have understanding more detail, but these type of understanding you need your examiner touch like this, right? This is the area most of time they don't go to theoretical, these define and all, but these giving the case and some bad case and you to advise. So what is a failure? What is the best practice you have to do? That approach can test by the examiner in the exam. So with that, sorry. So right now is there also this customer due diligence, political exposure person framework. So it's by customer due diligence to identify and verify the customer, assess the risk profile, monitor transaction, maintain updated records, politically identify political exposure persons, that identify, screen the PEPs and conduct enhanced due diligence, ongoing monitoring, that is important, ongoing monitoring, that is also important, enhanced due diligence, further scrutinize by the politically exposed persons because very highly they are vulnerable, right, with the AML and terrorist finance. So with that, so we'll continue that now is already that separate act and all is completed. So with that, another 20 minutes, shall we continue, right? So we are okay with another 20-25 minutes to continue. You are there? So someone can write comment? Both over, not too much people. So you are okay, right? Hello? Hello? Okay. Yes, your Ranga is pushing, you are very active, right? Thank you. Right. Okay. This about the talk about the industry specific regulation also, but those don't think I'm talking about too much thing, but if you properly go to your study test, those information are there. They sometimes only mention act and all, but they say this is a regulatory framework Sri Lanka. But you can't tell the exam to act there, no. So you should have what thing, including in the act knowledge, you should have, right? All information there. This also there from the study test you are, right? If you are, you please check with that. You can understand. Industry specific regulations. So those are banking, central bank issue, banking act, and also in the corporate governance, separate issue, right? Not the CA Sri Lanka and Security and Exchange, very powerful corporate governance to the bank issue, to define and well position in the three line of defense with the especially bank as well as the financial institution, separate two very powerful corporate governance guideline issue, right? Then the finance act there, insurance regulation commissions, capital market security exchange commission, and SEC and telecommunication, TRCSL, those are industry specific authority, right? With that, this you heard all name and all. So with that, I speed up this, right? So banking sector regulations, key regulations include the banking act directions, this act there, and corporate governance issue, what I told, with the well positioning, each position in the first line role, second line, third line, like this, even you can think even a PLC other, not like that, right? Now Sri Lanka, not that level is still. So, internal auditors in the PLC, some company managers like this, right? If you are bank, but say, you have most immediately after CEO layer should be the internal auditor position, right? You can see DGM, AGM, right? Level in the bank finance internal audit. But if you go to the finance, other PLCs and all, that level not there, right? Manager, sometimes person to be should be there, right? But very central bank, we have to thanks, well position in this position and first line, second line, third line through this corporate governance guidelines. So that is why ESG integration, board oversight, board responsibility. So their responsibility defined, the KRP, call central bank and finance company, position call key responsible persons, right? Organization. They should have to appoint. You cannot appoint yourself, organization. First have to get the clearance from the central bank, fit and proper. With that only approved, right? They are responsible which responsibility? Under the criminal responsibility, KRPs, right? The bank finance. So that is how positioning and structuring throughout the corporate governance and the regulation by the central bank. Right? With the looking at the interest, you know, the PLC, those are the interests come from the public interest. Only you issuing the share and collecting, right? 30%, 50%, 60% you issue, right? Bank also same, but other than bank, what do? They do collect the public money. So that is public interest much broader than the PLC. So that is why central banks more regulation putting in, you know, Sri Lankan learn lessons, different collapse finance company and all that, well positioning and highly regulated these two industry to protect the public depositors, right? So with that, that guidelines and regulations are there. Then the Banking Act also technological risk management guideline, third-party risk controls, you know, Basel capital tree adequacy. This is one of the regulatory come from the 2008, you know, the global financial crisis with that bank collapse. With that, this Basel's Commission of the Banking Supervisions. So introduce liquidity, capital, and all the best parameters. You know, sorry. With that, even a bank also that Sri Lanka was apply with that. So there are criteria. You can see now recent one of the bank is incident. So that is why you central bank come forward and tell this bank if the incident there, material fraud there, but central bank just giving to the public, right? That the press release with the looking with the capital adequacy and the bank liquidity. So bank will well positioning in the capital adequacy and the liquidity positions, no issue, right? That assurance given by the central bank to general publics. That is why not come in the panic deposit, you know, panic withdrawal, sorry, panic, you know, the deposit, panic withdrawal not comes. So that is why these regulatory requirements are more important. These bodies also play the big role to the protect the public deposit as well as the, you know, strengthen this industry, right? So integrity ensures this industry. So that is we have to thank, and also that supervision also just I summarize you to just practically you to explain about this incident, how the regulator is act, right? Well, this betterment for the country as the depositors and the investors, all the stakeholders, they act. So with that, shall I move to next slide? So this non-banking financial institution, this is talk about the finance company. Finance business are there. This was a capital adequacy requirement according with the asset-based finance company less than the 100 billion. Capital adequacy ratio 8.5. Then total capital adequacy ratio 12.5. Asset base more than 100 billion. Capital adequacy 10%. Then a total 14%. Right? These calculations are very. You want to calculate how to calculate, right? Because you want to learn, but I know practically another 10-15 pages guidelines central bank given how to calculate. There are add, you know, disallow like tax calculation, right? Those you want to learn, but how to that calculation happen like this, right? The 10-15 guidelines separately given to the bank's financial institution and the central, sorry, bank also to how to calculate there, right? You want to think, but just to understand capital adequacy ratio enough, right? These are benchmark those based on the capital the central bank announced. What are the requirements? So if you read the annual report in the finance company, one page, they're giving these parameters, what are the required authority, what they have, right? Those are, that is why at the incident recent bank fraud. So central bank according with this finance bank requirement. So what they have more than what the regulator expectation. That is, say they are well structured, well established situations and any crises within that parameters they can manage. So that is why they give that assurance to the general public, right? Other requirements, minimum core capital finance company 2.5 billion required, monthly and annual reporting requirement, even central bank number of reporting need. There is a specific finance company. So there is a FinNet reporting system, right? So weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, number of reports have submitted by the finance as well as bank company. Bank also same, right? With that, okay. So insurance sector regulations also, regulation insurance industry, minimum capital adequacy ratio they are 120%, and then minimum total available capital 500 million need to start the insurance company. Then governance rule include director, tenant limit, age caps, regulator intervention mechanisms. Those are telecommunications, same Sri Lanka Telecommunication Act. So undefined license frameworks, and then infrastructure sharing, quality of services standard, taxation, telecommunication levy, VAT, SSCL says effective 42% of the tax with this industry. So so this, hope you have to this knowledge enough this telecommunication. So this just a few areas. So an introduction, transfer, pricing. Should be this. Now tax regulator frameworks. So tax regulator frameworks requirement. Sri Lanka tax system is governed by the Inland Revenue Act, right? With that key compliance obligation, accurate income computation, transfer pricing compliance, VAT reporting, withholding tax obligation. Likewise, there are a number of tax requirement according with the regulator requirement in the Inland Revenue Act. Tax transparency is a key responsibility of the personnel, right, professional accountant. That is also there, right? Transparency in the key in the responsibility of the professional accountant, right? With that, I will not general tax matters to discuss, but one of the few slides to explain about this. These are important you to learn about introduction of transfer pricing. That is one of the important. So your study test also sizable few pages to this section. That's a few slide to explain. So transfer pricing is reported the price of transaction between the related entity. Example of related party transaction, parent and subsidiary transaction, intergroup services, intercompany financing. So those are the related party transaction, right? So importantly, prevent the profit shifting. That is, ensure the fair tax allocation between jurisdictions. Something what can happen is not like these kind of guidelines in transfer pricing, right? So if you some country like say Sri Lanka tax rate 30%. So another UAE have a 5% tax, right? You can so transfer the your part of income from the other country lower tax rate country. So they will entertain in the profit, right? That's a preventing of profit sharing. That's possibility are there. So that is why introduce of the transfer pricing to eliminate this, even prevent the profit shifting, right? Ensure the fair tax allocation between the jurisdiction. So that is why this important of the introduction of the transfer pricing. So if you are in the transfer pricing, if you talking, so we can't forget few key principles and concept. So right, one of these arm's length principle. This is a core concept in transfer pricing. So definition of transaction between the related party must be priced as if they were conduct between the independent entities. That is right. So arm's length means if you are dealing with transaction with the related party, but that prices if they conducted between the independent entity, that should be the price with the related party. That is a definition code, right? So purpose is to prevent artificial profit sharing, maintain tax fairness. So that is why the principal form of the foundation of the international tax regulation, right? That is one of the key arm's length principle in the transfer pricing. Core concept in the transfer pricing. Transactions between the related party must be priced as if they were conduct between independent entities. That is why say you dealing with the say X, then Y is the related party, right? X, but A is a independent person. If you are if you are service provider A, so you cannot, so lesser than amount offering to the X, I say Y, right? So that is a way. So that price should be the, if they were conducted in the independent party. So that is why called this arm's length price. So hope you have arm's length price so can understand. So with that, this next slide, in the economic substance principle, another principle, arm's length price, that economic principle. This is another principle important in the transfer pricing. Transaction must reflect genuine business activities. That's why indicating of the economic substance. That means your shell company is there, no persons work that company, only PO box. So that is not the economic substance. That is why. So for the economic substance, employee performing the real function within the organization, right? Different function, marketing, sales, and all functions there. Business operation conduct locally, and the decision making authority. So like kind of indication should be, right? The shell company without the substance may be ignored by tax authority. If the shell company only in the PO box by numbers without this, economic substance, then tax authority ignore. So that is the economic substance principle is important in the transfer pricing, right? With that. So hope you understand with this. And also this is also important in the transfer pricing functional analysis. This is also do FAR analysis, functions perform, asset use, risk assume. Functions, what are the functions in the organization? Marketing, manufacturing, disruption, type of functions. Asset, what asset? Intellectual property, machine, technologies, and the risk, market risk, credit risk, currency risk, those are assessment, FAR analysis, evaluate within the organization. So next slide, I will show this important. So when we are transfer pricing documentations, those information are critical, right? Transfer pricing documentation, master file, your group structure, the parent group headquarters may be USA, right? How your subsidiary, how many subsidiary, how business operations, what business segment within your organization, with the transfer pricing policy. So all should be local, that should be the master file. Even a local file, local transaction, FAR analysis, function, asset, risk, benchmarking study, those should be in the local file, right? Those documentation is most important when the tax audit. So you to survive and you to be leisurely handled about the authority, you should have these all information properly. You should have. If you don't have this document, you will trouble when your tax authority tax audit come, right? That is why this transfer pricing documentation important, right? So hope you have understanding about this. This understanding primarily defend during the audit, tax audit, right? So with that, 58, another transfer pricing risk management. Key risk, regulatory risk, financial risk, compliance risk, reputation risk, operational risk, all are there, right? You have to pay these things, penalties, and the compliance and the reputation, expose general public's reputations, operational risk. So broad must be in strong documentation important, clear policy, periodic benchmarking, those are board must ensure. And then important primary defense by during the audit, tax audit, that is right, tax audit, you have proper documentation, proper policies, and then the assessment during the time to time. So all are important to the primary defense in the during the tax audit. So with that, next one in the, now is already complete about this. Now is come to the tax. I think we'll continue until 10 right now. After that, no, I will 2 hours now. But this is very lengthy, but I can't just to skip something. I have to tell you, right? So that is, I'm also very difficult, even continuously talking, but something you should have to get your understanding with this one by one is better. So that is my expectation of you all. So right, this is a label of Sri Lankan key label of, Shop and Office Act, Wages Board Audios Act, EPF, ETF, Industry Dispute. So you are all working in the private sector, you know about this related. but you should have some understanding. Minimum wages now, 30,000. No, I think remember more than that. Then working hours. What is the working hours? Account, employee benefit. Non-compliance may lead to labor tribunal actions, right? If you are not compliant, so how you to take on the disciplinary actions, and then what is the next step? Deviance, and then how resolve these complex situations. If you are not properly resolved with that, you have to go to labor tribunal, after that court, and kind of legal penalties, and also have to suffer organization, right? So that is why these labor law compliance also important in the organizations. So with that, just most about the labor law. Then environment regulation. Environment regulation ensure the sustainable operations, key requirement, environmental impact assessment, pollution control measurements, waste management, manufacturing industry require the environmental protection license. I know about healthcare. They need the environmental authority license annually have to renew, because they are, the clinical wastage, clinical, those things, to how they're disposing, managing, most critical, the authority review according with the business operation, right? Some are very high, so critical, this environmental regulations. So that is also according with the business where you work, as per the industry, so most critical about the environmental regulations. Sustainability disclosure, this also, don't think, you can think now there are multiple area, right? You are study test, I don't know, it's a compliance also, multiple areas they touch. So give it, right? That is how blended you to multiple areas you should have to know. So that is see expectation, actually very, very interesting subject. I don't know who, so but you are not talking now, unfortunately. I would like, what do you think about your advanced risk management and corporate governance subject, right? You have to do, no other option. No, what do you think about this? Have you read any study test? Sometimes I know you may attend anywhere the class. How you feel about this subject up to now? Any comment? Only me discuss and talk now. So how you feel about this subject? You do, but no choice. You have to do audit and this. You don't do audit, but this you do. Oh, that how you feel about this subject, you too? Any comment about this? Because this is a brand new subject in CA new curriculum, right? So how you feel about the up to now this subject? Any comment? If you can talk, right? Only we don't only CA alpha. I am also learning. So we not come forward and talk. So that is happen, but don't worry. So talk about how you feel this, how you think we are in difficult areas of this subject, and how you, any comment about this? More practical. Now that is a very good. Now that mean you have sense. That is a why. So it's good now you connect, continuously connect. Thank you, Ranga. So that is important. So that is why this subject is most very practical, not like normal theory subject. Teaching also very challenge, right? Books and this reading, but that is why I use some technology and this kind of way presentation preparing and do, so you to get the understanding easy. But the subject so very practical, connected, well connected subject. So that is why, so with that, good your comments. With that, it's a sustainable discourse. S1 and S2 now is a requirement. So effective on 225. So there are a stage of the implementation. The next slide I will explain that. Before that, S1 talk about the general sustainability disclosure covering governance, strategic risk management and metrics. S2 is talk about the climate related disclosure, greenhouse gas emissions, climate risk. This is about, right, focus on the financial maturity of the sustainability risk. You can, now you can, if you are good, different, annual report to review, you can understand how this subject, and also these numbers are come Or with the this last year we used this much of energy, our company. This year we go for renewable energy with that, right? So we save this much of energy. So these numbers come right under sustainability or financial annual report. So one fact I explained, this much of electricity we use this year, this much. So you can see last our new managers, new employees, we give into the electric vehicles, right? That is sustainable way to company act, right? Likewise, different things come in the few next annual reports. You can now also now first introduce a few organization, 100 listed company. So if you can understand how different organization they approach separate department within sustainability reporting, and CA Sri Lanka introduced separate certification about sustainable reporting advisory and reporting advisory. So you can critically of this one of the need, because business need to run not to the today, even the future generation also have to resources, have to save, right? That is the ultimate objective. This future generation to have, we have to resources to save, not want to be a government body, even a private organization. That is the ultimate objective, right? These things locally and globally talk. So I hope we have understanding about this sustainability. So with that, so effective date, and these are just to you to knowledge, even a 2025 top 100 listed entities mandatory implementation, 2026 all main board listed entities, and 2027 other entities, 2030 empower board. So 2030 all the listed entity with the wish board irrespective to the this sustainability effective, right? So but all top 100 entities already now apply. So this with that those are just to get the understanding. So 63 now is cross-border compliance harmonization. This is also we talk about this, cross-border compliance harmonization is talking. So multinational companies, they have entity in the multiple jurisdictions, right? Jurisdictions there. So they face a challenge, conflicting tax regulations. Different countries impose a varying tax laws, creating compliance complicated and risks of double taxations. So different reporting standard, USA, US GAAP, and the IFRS, you have multiple multinational company, so they have to consolidated financials. So they have to, this harmonization is that too important. Anti-corruption also, different regulations, countries, so different regulation apply. So that is why how is multinational company face a regulated complexity, changing, including those are the reasons. The organization must harmonize compliance across the local laws, country-specific legal and regulatory requirements, international regulations like global standard frameworks. Now, even Sri Lanka also IFRS go. That is one of good harmonization in Sri Lankan organization who are multinationals. So this they have to that's one of the approach, right? So these kind of challenge to face. So we also have to interact with the global organization. That's as I told, anti-money laundering. So financial task force, right? Global. So we connected with that. That is one of the good harmonization in terms of the anti-money laundering, terrorist finance. Likewise, so these key areas. So we have to work with the global standard and global bodies. So then we can minimize this cross-border compliance harmonization challenges, right? With that, right, RigTech solution. This is also there. You are in this study test that talk about the RigTechs refer to the technology used to manage the compliance. So automated regulator reportings, and then AI-based transaction monitoring, compliance analytics tools, Those are used for the RIC-Tech solutions, that modern technological world, those tools used for the manage the compliance. So benefit: improve the efficiency, reduce the compliance risk, enhance regulatory monitoring. So effectiveness and efficiency improve. It is all about new technology use. That is called RIC-Tech solution. RIC-Tech reported technology used to manage the compliance. So it's happening now. AI based transaction, any anomalies and all transaction. Now some bank finance, they use the AI. So likewise, like other red flags and all, system red flags come, automated system to regulations, automatically red flag comes. So if you say now there's a transaction reporting mechanism, over 1 million transaction you have to reporting, right? So with that over 1 million, so there is a systematic, automatically alerts come, red flags come. How is that automatically regulatory system to automatically system can apply? So with that, so next slide, compliance management functions. How to manage the compliance? Right now, next slide. What is this? Right, compliance management function. This is also important. Compliance function from the second line defense responsibility. That is third three line of defense. Second line. Very first slide you to explain three line. So with that second line defense in the compliance. Okay, responsibility, regulatory monitoring, compliance risk assessment, policy development, training, and awareness. Those are the key. Keep in mind, sometimes you need to apply to question and answer these responsibility with the base of the case. So hope you have understanding, monitoring, compliance risk assessment, policy development, and the training and awareness, which is responsive compliance function. Non-compliance impact. Failure to compliance may result. Now what we now already discussed, number of act, regulations, lot of guidelines, right? What happened to you are failed to comply with this? Financial penalty and legal liabilities, reputational damage, operational disruptions. Those are the non-compliance may result, right? Some case I explained, like the Security and Exchange and all, due to maybe delisting, right? Some bank finance, if you are continuously non-compliance with the regulator, so bank authority may cancel your license. So that level can go, right? So hope you have understanding. Therefore, organization must maintain the strong compliance system. That is important, right? So with that, next slide in the this also there, right? You can think how broader this compliance. This one of the audit area also there, right? This ISA International Auditing Standard 701 key audit matters. The require disclose the key audit matter that require to significant auditor attention during the audit. What are the revenue recognition, asset impairment, related party transaction, going concerns? These also important, right? So that is also required significant auditor attention during the audit. Key audit matters. And then other one is quality control management, firm-wide quality control management, engagement-wide quality control management. So quality firm-wise means firm leadership. It is talk about the firm-wise quality management. But in the engagement quality management, the engagement, engagement partner, maybe engagement, specific engagement quality review, the working papers and the supervising about the engagement. It is about the engagement quality review, but in the firm is a much broader, right? View about the whole organization point of view, but engagement is specific engagement focus and ensure the audit quality and independence about this SLQM 1 and 2, right? This understanding about this. The regulated compliance audit integration. So internal audit integrate the regulatory compliance into the audit. Internal audit evaluate the compliance program. Regulator reporting, internal control effectiveness. I think slide I talk about the more about the internal role as a third line depends on in terms of the compliance risk management. So this is also much broader discussed here, right? So about the compliance program, how effectiveness of the compliance program, the regulator reporting timely report, right? Whether timely and accuracy report to authority. So the internal control effectiveness, assess the internal control effectiveness and efficiency, and then reporting to the owner as well as the board audit committee. As an independent person, third lines, then internal auditor can assess, can give their feedbacks, value additions, and suggestions to the board audit committee and the respective owners. So that is how strategic role of the internal audit. Internal auditor strengthen the governance by evaluating risk management, assessing compliance framework, improving internal controls, and then enhancing governance structure. Internal audit contribute the organization resilience. That is important, resilience. So that is how internal audit is strategically partnering into the organization. So hope you have understanding it. Don't worry, next session about this all about internal audit, right? So I also last I think my 10 to 15 years, most of the time I play the internal auditor role in the different organizations, finance, even microfinance, healthcare in Sri Lanka with that knowledge. So very my theory class I did I think very broader lessons, right? So I told anyone who have to come to go to exam with the 20% marks, so no point to that class, right? But I begin whatever my maximum to this program also there, right? Now this also our theory lessons, number of lessons, I will bringing some essence to here, but all can't do with this, but maximum reasonable jobs. So you to, I know you are lots of people, so you to get the understanding and knowledge. Sometimes I ask, you are maybe last time maybe set the ABR paper, unfortunately you can't success. May result issue in the May, sorry, not May, March, mid, right? Now we are in trouble in this short period, these kind of subject you have to learn, right? There are 2 books in the study test, so you are in a very stressful environment. That is why online Nakura and myself, our effort, you to give some strong confidence to pass the exam, get through of this subject, right? So that is our expectation, online Nakura and myself. So I hope you all get the maximum benefit from these sessions. So with that, so hope you know this, right? Okay, internal audit, right, enough. So next day, no, don't worry about the very in detail internal audit we'll discuss, right? So with that, so strategic exam tips. When answering the compliance questions, always link to corporate governance, enterprise risk, internal control, internal assurance. Demonstrate the strategic understanding. That is why don't they will. I will show you to the pilot paper question. You can understand how is the examiner will test in your next June and here after exam, right? So that broader aspect you have to look in the compliance matter, corporate governance perspective, enterprise risk, internal control, internal audit. That is, I say this subject, all 5 components are connected, not isolated each one. All are linked. If you are regulated and compliance, which is going to enterprise risk. Risk management, one part is a compliance risk management. If the fail the properly compliance risk management, so strategic risk. So if risk management fail, who are the responsible? Corporate governance fail. The one at the top, responsible what is? At the time, internal audit responsibility is what is, right? So all we can discuss. That is why compliance also so important and connected to each component of your syllabus. So that question also come like this. Don't expect isolated. Sometimes scenario based, different connected to each component of the your syllabus. So you should be able to think a different angle and answer. So hope this understandable. This with that now we are reaching to the last. So I hope all of you are there, right? Whatever few people, right? Okay, some our theory students also there, but they are not here. But sometimes recording and so watching, that's okay, fine. But I will these to like more interact with you and would do the session. But we'll see in future like this, right? Future sessions expectation like this. So this is okay. You are okay. Are you are sleeping or? Your Saturday, this your normal other days you are working, now this is your relaxing day. Hola, okay. Any comment? Can you someone comment? Okay. Now this is yes, okay, right, okay, right. Thank you. So with that, now we come to now complete the 71 slide talk about all the regulator. Regulator compliance and legal frameworks. That knowledge is enough for the exam question as well as you can begin your workplace to this knowledge, right? So now we can check how the CA Sri Lanka examiner, this is a pilot paper now already issued, pilot paper question number 2, right? Question number 2, but there are questions, that question now 3 areas, that is I say internal audit area, like another corporate governance, but I don't touch that because we still not talk that, but there's a compliance matter. So I capture that question, that area. This I will read. B&G Foods Limited is a large manufacturing and trading group operating in Sri Lanka, primarily engaging in the production and distribution of the confectionery and beverage. As a part of it is strategic to consolidate the operations and support future growth. The board has approved the plan for the company to seek the public listing within the next financial year. In this context, management has the financials and the consolidated annual budget and table. It is the recent budget board meeting for the review and approval. During the deliberation, the board identified several governance and compliance matters that require further consideration. Right. With that, now we come to the compliance matter. Right. Promotional and expenditure and hospitality. The board also observed that the promotional expenditure budget has increased by approximately 25% compared to the previous year. The chief marketing officer explained that the increase related to the structure program for annual event, including entertainment, dining, and the attendance at the selected sporting occasions offered to long-standing business partners across the supply chain as part of relationship building initiative. Right? While acknowledging the commercial rationale, the board expressed concern regarding the potential bribery, inducements, and the conflict of interest risks associated with such hospitality. Directors advised management to draft a formal anti-bribery policy to ensure the transparency, consistency, and appropriate oversight of all promotional and hospitality activities. You can think this is extracted this question to pilot paper, but there are some other area I not took, but these are related to compliance, right? Now we anti-corruption all discussed, right? Now is last slide. This the questions 1A, B, and C, right? Now 25 marks. You know that I hope you have understanding how paper is structured. 50% no choice you have to do. 50% plus 50 marks question. Then 25 question, 3 question there in the paper, but you have to attend only 2. That 25 2 question and 50 marks, altogether 100 marks. You have to get the 50 marks to pass. Hope you have understanding about paper structure. But that one question you can think the assess sustainable. I don't touch that area, but this area, right? This develop the key control that should be embedded within the anti-bribery policy to ensure the transparency, consistency, effective management, oversight over the promotional and hospitality activity of BGF. Right? You get 10 marks. You can think. Now we are 10% is regulatory compliance and legal frameworks. That whole marks in this question, right? This mark, right? But other I will not talk, but this 10% marks. You can think there's scenario given, industry, you know given, this nature given. So develop key control that should be embedded within the anti-bribery policy to ensure transparency, consistency, effective management, oversight over the promotional and hospitality activity of BCG. This is the one, this answer, right? You will discuss, you can think, but you may think we can write in general thinking. That is also there, but you to think generally, you should have something in mind, right? If you don't know what is the bribery, corruption, this, anti-corruption and all, you can't write this. That is I told. Paper no one task how to define what is the bribery, what is this thing. But broader level, board level solutions, board suggestions, examiner will test. You to write them, you should have that knowledge. So that is the expectation of examiner. Right? Here relevant come this outcome also learning outcome given, right? So this I will read this. Treat the anti-bribery policy as a governance control framework rather than the procedural manual. That is why they will highlight this. That is a framework is a governance framework. Is you fail this, you fail your governance, right? That is a bribery matters are raised, then your anti-bribery policy might not comply. So that is a governance issue. That is a governance control framework rather than the procedural manual. Identify policy level control that establish authority, accountability, oversight over promotional and hospitality activity. Focus on transparency, consistency, enforceability, and listed entity context. Right? This is why ensure the transparency, consistency, effectiveness, oversight of promotional actions, hospital activity, B&G, anti-bribery policy should be embedded, clearly define the governance control, right? First, policy should be established, spelled approval authority, controls, authority metrics should be this amount, this person can, manager level, head of department, CEO level, board level approval, promotional expenses like this, you can giving this approval hierarchy giving, right? By nature of this, sometimes this you are working with the, I told my explanation, you are working with the government body, right? By nature of the your client, so that can put. So this that red green, sorry, you 1 minute. Red green color, your suppliers, right? The government institution, those definitely irrespective of the value, the board should approve, right? You can improve. So include the policy, right? This is how policy should be embedded, clearly define the governance and control. First, the policy should establish approval authority, control, define approval levels, promotional and hospitality expenditure based on the value, nature, risk. That is just I would practically explain. This ensure that the high risk activity are subject to the senior manager and board level scrutiny. That is important, right? But sorry for that today, because next day I will, but this our today PowerPoint presentation, I can't do anything like this. I can only share this and teach, but normally my theory I teaching, lot of things here I will do here and there, writing and do, but today, so sorry for bear with me, right? That apologize. But so those are important in including this policy, right? Subject to senior management and board level scrutiny. That is how important. The policy should incorporate defined acceptability threshold, setting the clear limit on the type, frequency, value, or possibility, and may be offered. These limits reduce the discretion of the promotional consistent and application across the organizations. The policy should include the commission, training, enforcement controls, require timely communication of the policy to all staff, periodic training, expected standard of the conduct, and mechanism to enable appropriate disciplinary action for the non-compliance. That is why policy also should be there. What should do if you not do like this? What could happen? That is called disciplinary action, right? Non-compliance. Further, record keeping, audit trail control should be specified, require adequate documentation, support, business rationalized approval, expenditure related to the promotional activity, these facility monitoring and review. So internal auditor role also can include into policy, right? They are one of role. So what is the ownership of this policy? How this compliance officer role, responsibility can be included, right? Board level, everything. Finally, the policy should provide for the oversight, assurance, control, including periodic reporting of hospitality and promotional expenditure to senior management or audit committee supported by the independent internal audit review. That is also. So material cases, material events have to independent review by the internal department and give to their oversight and their assurance to the board audit committee. Right? That is also there. This is required to assess your ability to, what is the expectation? This is required assess your ability to translate anti-bribery principle into the policy level control. That is I told. Principle there, theories there, guidelines there, act regulations are there, but principle into the policy level controls. High quality answers demonstrate the governance thinking, right? Accountability and the appreciation of reputational regulatory expectation in the listed environment. So you have to think like this, right? Is the listed company, the governor perspective, accountability, so broader level. So you should have to how bringing the sustainable entity, resilient organization, so point of view, how to this policy contribute. So that level you have to think. So that is exam, this comment put, right? Hope you have understand about this. This is one of the question from pilot paper I took under the regulatory compliance and legal frameworks. Now you can expectation from the examiner, you can think how you to think and answer like this, right? Broader level. So after another only two questions, but I extracted from my theory note, right? This is one of the AML related. So just discuss the role of the board in the AML and terrorist finance compliance, right? What is the board role? Answer: the board is hold ultimately responsibility for the AML and CFT compliance under the Financial Transaction Reporting Act and the wider regulatory frameworks. From the strategic governance perspective, board role is critical in embedding compliance within the enterprise risk management and organization culture. Just I explained you, right, how this compliance linked to the enterprise risk management and then the organization's culture. So that is the key responsibility of the board. Tone at the top, that is a ultimate responsibility, the tone at the top. Promote the culture, integrity, ethical, zero tolerance of the financial crimes. That is a responsibility of the tone at the top. Set the behavior, expenditure, expectations, and cases throughout the organizations. Policy approval and oversight. Policy approved, AML, terrorist finance, policy approved, then code of conduct, escalation procedures, and periodically review the policies to ensure the alignment with the regulator changes and the emerging risks. So that is a policy approval and oversight responsibility. Risk appetite and governance. Define the organization risk appetite in relation to money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation of financing. This is also same as like a terrorist finance, right? We will discuss on the sec. So ensure the strategic alignment of compliance with the overall enterprise risk management. How this alignment with the enterprise risk management, that is I told, this is a compliance separately, but this is linked to the enterprise risk management, operational risk, financial risk, strategic risk, compliance risk. This is a part of the enterprise risk management. So that is how ensure the strategic alignment with the compliance risk, overall enterprise risk management. Monitoring and review, critical review the compliance report, including suspicious transaction report, STR, evaluate the internal control, monitoring system, mitigation measures throughout the monitoring role can do through audit committee, internal auditor, through internal auditor, requesting few areas to do and give the assurance about the internal audit. So review the internal audit and assess internal auditor comments and then try to implement the organizations on internal auditor suggestions in terms of the anti-money laundering and terrorist finance, right? This is also part and other resources and compliance function oversight. Ensure the establishment of independent compliance functions and relevant staff recruitment, facilitate resources. That is also responsibility of the board of directors, right? Because sometimes some attitude like this, some company, they are the people, just one person is there enough to regulate to show the compliance officer there, right? That is not the attitude it should be. That is a tone at the top important. They have to idea about we have to spend sizable amount to this function to strengthen. This function will strengthen our organization compliance risk. So that is important. So that is one of the responsibility of the board of directors, the resources and facility provide. So receive the assurance that the compliance officer manage effectively, monitoring about the AML, then accountability and liability. Non-compliance failures are considered as a governance fail, exposing to board personally liable. I discussed, right? These are everything. So I hope you have understand your mind and due diligence and the be demonstrate. I practically I can example can tell even finance company, even central bank on site and all auditor visit there. So they give final report with their own site. If you are failure in the board, if your compliance fail, they say it's unsatisfactory governance, unsatisfactory giving. It's the board failure, right? Not the other. Tone at the top responsibility. That is why you cannot other person to pass this, but board should have to oversight and accountability. That role they should have to issue with the subcommittee. They have 3-4 audit committee, risk committee, like regulation committee, RPT committee, like kind of committee, and then also first line, second line, third line. So for that brigades, they have to connect it and they have to get the oversight and accountability. Ultimate responsibility is the board. That is you should have to keep in mind, right? So strategic insight, the board's role is not operational but strategically and oversight focus. AML and CFP complying the risk governance mechanism linking regulatory compliance and corporate governance and reputational protection, right? With that, next one also another question with my theory, one finance company. So you can think that is one of the risk. Finance company outsource loan collection call to the third party vendor. This is a data protection related. So loan collection call to the third party vendor. A vendor employee share customer phone number and loan balance with the fraudster. That is why practically these cases this could happen. So then you have to analyze this PDP issue, finance company. Controller is a finance company. So vendor is a possessor. Controller remain the accountable. That's why we discuss. So that is you have to issue analyze breaching obligation. This is a personal data breach. Unauthorized disclosure access. Notify within the 72 hours to the aware to authority. If high risk, inform the affected data subject. So then you have the data subject also informed, right? The vendor governance control must ensure the processor has adequate mechanism, measures and contract terms. Processor must maintain the confidentiality, support audit, and then erase and return the data, right? So that is why vendor governance. Then board response, review the third party outsourcing control. You work with the third party. The clauses should be in the agreement, service level agreement. You should have to, controller should have to visit their, review their work and audit. That audit right should be right. Incident assessment and incident inquiry right should be there. Those clauses should be included in the service level agreement with the third party, right? So that is a practical example I teach you. So with that, so this is also there. The finance sector, finance company, this is also cloud, another one. So cloud breach, right? Data protection, finance company outsource the customer data storage to cloud provider. The breach occur and the customer NIC and account bank detail leaks. Then how we apply to this? Identify the role, finance company controller, cloud provider is the processor, control, remaining accountable, right? I discussed with you, notify data protection authority within the 72 hours, become aware if higher risk, right, freedom, inform the affected data subject, right? Impose process, contractual obligation, confidentiality, security, audit, right, returns, and then after service, all containment, corrective controls, aligned with the integrity, confidentiality, accountability, obligations. So if the data hosted overseas, assess the cross-border transfer basis, adequacy instrument, so contracts, and the implemented safeguards. So board oversight, incident response governance, management action plan, internal audit review, vendor assessment, vendor reassessment, ensure directive compliance to avoid the penalties and director liability. So that is why. So with that, I think 3 hours almost. Sorry, yeah. Okay, 3 hours. We already planned 2 hours, but very first session. I know this time, so we'll conclude today's session, very first session. So with that, today very difficult. This one too. That is why I take very difficult in this too. Okay, no need that. So to handling, so that anyhow we managed. We did it. Hope so. You get some knowledge about this with the this subject is the people, right? This the student. So how many students there? Okay, still there. Okay, I'm really happy you all are there, right? So okay, don't worry. So we do something. I hope reasonable job did with this 3 hours. I told this at least 10 to 11 hours theory, right? To a theory subject. CA Sri Lanka now telling that the requirement is this CA is a master level qualification, right? Master level qualification, there are parameters, right? You have to learn this much of hours of this subject, but that's the why requirement, right? So, but this theory program, anyhow, we bringing over the essence of this area component. That is, I need few questions with that you to get some practically thinking about then how exam check this kind of scenario and so apply. So with that, any comment you are last before conclude? So any comments and future session how to develop and so you are side the what you are trouble. So talk. Don't worry about this. You can talk now. So any comments from your side, how we want to develop? So I know with the 1.5 marks, so what support do you need from our side? Tell, there are Kaushani Jayasinghe, Ranga Pushpakumar, please. So, someone is there. Thank you all, understood, sir. Appreciate if you can share this PPR. Okay, I will tell to the, don't worry about that online Apollo teams, right? So they will do that, right? So I want to, they will share with that. Any comments about that? Another session for the theory part, like this approach, because just do the questions, no point, because without I know most of you are someone, I don't know, you are attending somewhere theory class, but sometimes you said that is initially asked, you are from the ABR, you unfortunately you can't got to success last time, now you have to do this subject now. What if you don't go this, you do either one. But at the time I know which short period you are, so that you should have just to do the theory class in the question, this theory essence practically, so you to learn is important, so then you can tackle any questions, right? So that is the beauty of this subject also. So you can bring this knowledge to the what I told to the board, you to study can trusted advisor to the board, right? You can become you to board this star, right? That knowledge dominant person you can be. So it is there. That is I explained the whole in detail. So any comment from your side? So tell what to, if you are expecting something to future session like this kind of way. So your feedback's more important. Even some our theory student also there, but they don't hear. I don't know. They sometimes recording, watching like kind of attitude. No, so they do can flexible time can do. But you have so comments. So any comment, Ranga? So what do you expected and future session, and so your feedbacks is most important. How to develop this program for more useful and so you have to get more benefits. Hello. It is better to do question also. So, yeah. That is why now I hear also few 2-3 questions, right? Practically this kind of sub areas can test, right? But don't worry. Even first after 5 session, there are 2 papers. That is discussion paper 1, discussion paper 2, right? That purely discuss about the question, no, not theory. And also finally before the exam, that 13th we plan physical exam. We have 2 places in Kadawatha today, and there Kadawatha is, and also Union Place. But Union Place we can accommodate few people in the physical. So I expect you to come to there and write even exam environment. So good paper, I will develop that, a very competitive paper with the modern and local geopolitical, that environment considering well updated paper. So I request you to come and write in there 3 hours paper with that exam confidence. Then you can go to exam, and so I hope you can manage well exam. So that is my expectation. So this is also question also will do. Don't worry. The purely question do the discussion paper 1 and 2. But next session also few question I will take, because this is a more even internal also I will minimum to 40 session. But this unfortunately this there are a number of regulatory guidelines, and also I know most of you are not aware sometimes new things. No, this is a new thing. Some classes even are not done this session, different session do. That is why. So if you check that why, but that is bringing this knowledge. So our CSR job, I think one of our CSR, because this knowledge. So you can bring to anywhere. So one of our responsibility to society, right? That is I took too much of information also. So, right, Ranga, your comment is most valid. So, we'll do more question, we'll discuss, right?